Order. At this time, we'll have the invocation by Vice Mayor Bennett, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you again for allowing us to come together to transact the business of the city and the citizens. Father, we ask you to bless our city, bless our country, bless our new president that just took office. And Father, we just ask for your safety among all of us that we live and deal with the public. These things we have.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Here.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Here.
Mayor Duman.
Here. Freedom of Information Act certification is required at this time. Madam Clerk, please present the resolution for
A
consideration.
resolution certifying the closed meeting of January the 20th, 2021, pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3712. Now therefore be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Suffolk hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of Virginia law, and only such public business matters as identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by City Council of the City of Suffolk in the closed meeting.
Order.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Fawcett and a second by Vice Mayor Bennett. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Approval of the minutes from the August 19th, 2020 work session and regular meeting is the next item for consideration. A motion is in order.
So move.
Got a motion by Councilman Williams, a second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Ward. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yep.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
This time we'll move to special presentations, and we'll have a special presentation concerning the COVID-19 vaccination update. Mr. Manager, please present an overview.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. At this time, I'd like to call Deputy Chief Brian Spicer to the podium. Deputy Chief will provide an overview of COVID-19 testing to date and also status on vaccination efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, as the manager says, I'm going to give you just a brief overview of positivity rate testing and vaccinations in the city of Suffolk for the coronavirus. First graph we're looking at here is just showing the positivity rate for the Western Tidewater Health District, of which Suffolk is a part of. As you can see by the gold line, that is the 7-day moving average of the positivity rate in the Western Tidewater Health District. And we've got a positivity rate right now reported of 16.2%. Important to note when we're talking about the testing and the graphs and charts and whatnot that we're showing related to the positivity rate is that we're talking about, as the Department of Health puts it, testing encounters. So this is not necessarily the number of persons that have been tested, but more of the encounters. There's often times when persons are tested more than once throughout their process. And to put that into a little bit of perspective, the Western Tidewater Health District is reporting 109,000 testing encounters, and there are roughly 158,000 people located within the Western Tidewater Health District. This graphic here, we're looking at the percent positive for the City of Suffolk and Western Tidewater Health District as it is compared to other jurisdictions in Hampton Roads, included the average for Hampton Roads and the average for Virginia. And you can see on the left there that the Western Tidewater Health District, as I noted a moment ago, is at 16.2%. The City of Suffolk is at 20.36%, and you can see the other positivity rates for other jurisdictions across the chart there. You'll see the red line, that indicates the Hampton Roads average of 18.8%, And the blue line below that is the Virginia rate at 13.6%. With respect to testing, the question has come up quite often as to how to get tested now as we've moved through the COVID in this process. And the first thing that people should do is call their healthcare provider and seek a test through their primary care physician. Additionally, the Virginia Department of Health's COVID-19 testing sites webpage provides a list of testing locations throughout Virginia, the Commonwealth, that one could go to get tested. And of note, we want to make sure that everyone's aware that, for instance, the Walgreens at 118 North Constance Road has drive-through testing by appointment. So you can go to walgreens.com/COVID testing and sign up on their webpage to go and get a drive-through test. And I believe their results are available within 24 hours if you were to use that. And I think we have a number of our pharmacy facilities in the city that are doing similar types of things to allow people to get tested.
What's that again? What location is that?
That is the Walgreens, 118 West Constance Road.
West Constance Road.
Yes, sir. With respect to vaccinations, the Department of Health and the CDC has rolled out vaccinations in 3 phases. You can see we have 1A, 1B, and 1C are the phases. Right now, the Department of Health for Virginia has us currently in the 1A and the 1B phases. Talking about 1A, that was designated by the Health Department as healthcare personnel, residents of long-term care facilities. Suffolk Fire and Rescue personnel fell into that 1A category and received the first doses for our organization January 6th, 7th, and 8th of this year. The vaccine was offered to all of our employees, and roughly 44% of the employees elected to take the vaccine. We have still about 15 or so left to get the first dose through, and we'll be completing the second dose of that vaccine for our employees February 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And just a couple of shots of the Department of Health administering the vaccine to Suffolk Fire and Rescue's employees. Phase 1B, the manager and staff have developed a vaccine plan to work with the Virginia Department of Health. And as you can see, the first thing on Phase 1B is frontline essential workers. The Virginia Department of Health designated all City of Suffolk employees as frontline essential workers due to continuity of government and keeping us open, basically. So the Department of HR has communicated the manager's direction to all of our employees of this. All of the city employees have been added to the Center for Disease Control's VAM system, which is the Vaccine Administration and Management System. This allows the employees to self-register and to schedule their first vaccine dose. Employees will receive their first dose, then they'll schedule in that system and go for their second dose. Anybody else that's on the 1B list, the people age 65, people age 16 to 64 with underlying medical conditions, people living in correctional facilities, homeless shelters, and other congregate care facilities, they are to seek guidance from their primary care physician with respect to obtaining a vaccine at this time. There may come a point in the future when the Department of Health is rolling that out to this group, but right now, the Department of Health is recommending that everyone contacts their primary care physician seeking that vaccine. For vaccines in close proximity when the employees, and I think a number of you may have been into this system so far and see this, but once employees are registered in the VAM system, they're able to see clinics to select from, and they're able to select an appointment time at that clinic to schedule their vaccination. These are 4 of them, 2 of which are in Suffolk and 2 outside of the city that are in close proximity. Since this slide was put together, there's been some additional clinics that have been added to the system So I think right now there's about 10 clinics that are available within a 50-mile radius of the city of Suffolk, with 6 of those being in Norfolk, some 3 of them for Suffolk, and 1 of those located in the city of Portsmouth through their health department. A little bit of data from the state. Vaccinations in Virginia, the Department of Health is reporting that a little over 290,000 people in Virginia have had at least 1 dose of the coronavirus vaccine, and there are a little over 34,000 that are fully vaccinated. And you can see by the map and the graph to the left of it how we compare to the rest of the state. Additionally, there are, as I said, a little over 324,000 doses that have been administered, and the Virginia Department of Health is reporting that there have been some 943,000 doses of vaccine that have been distributed. So if my math is correct, that leaves about 600,000 doses of vaccine that are out there with the health departments right now and that are in the process of trying to make the distribution. The graph below that simply indicates hospitals, local health departments, long-term care facilities, medical practices, and other community health providers, and how many vaccines those facilities have received. A little additional state data, and this is basically the top graph here is just showing you by age group how many people have received the first dose of the vaccine. You can see that the 30 to 39, 40 to 49, and 50 to 59 seem to be the largest groups that have received it, with some 64,000 people in each of those populations having received their first dose. The graphs below that by race, ethnicity, and by sex, I think are just a little bit misleading right now, because if you look at the disclaimer down in the bottom where it says not reported, for example, race and ethnicity, there's some almost 180,000 vaccines that haven't been reported to populate this graph, and almost 10,000 on the by sex one. So I kind of question the accuracy right now based on that of it, but this is what they're reporting at this time.
I would assume that when you say 30 to 39, 40 to 49, and that seems to be the largest group, that must be the individuals that are caregivers, emergency people, and things of that nature?
Yes, sir. That would be the 1A group and that population of the 1B group that I mentioned earlier that are essential workers.
I see the 70 to 79 is pretty slack. And
Yes, sir.
I'd say that was a pretty dangerous group.
It is, yes, sir. And that population outside of the 1B group is going to really fall back to the primary care physicians or to the health department. That may be a cooperative effort with the city. We're still not sure, but that's to be determined yet. The vaccine for that group and some of those outside of the groups that I've mentioned, we're at the mercy of the health department as to when they release the vaccine or make it available to us to get it. So we continue to talk to them daily to find out when we can move on to the next steps of 1B and also to 1C. Same chart. This one's just showing the population that's been fully vaccinated. You can see the 30 to 39 seems to be the biggest group. And again, that's, in my opinion, likely attributed to what Councilman Goldberg's bringing up here, with that being the 1A and the 1B groups there. With respect to doses delivered in Hampton Roads, you can see how Suffolk is. We have 1,785 one-dose delivered and 56 full vaccines delivered in the city of Suffolk. The one dose being the blue on the left, the full vaccine being the red on the right. You can see through that graph how we compare to the rest of Hampton Roads and the amount of vaccine that we have distributed thus far. Going forward, we're going to continue to manage and assist City and Suffolk employees in that upper portion of the 1B group with receiving their vaccine. That seems to be one of the milestones to accomplish here, is to get that group done before the Department of Health will move on to the next portion of the 1B group. We're going to continue to work with the Virginia Department of Health, Western Tidewater Health District, to ensure complete vaccination distribution in Suffolk. We're going to continue the registration process for the Suffolk Fire and Rescue personnel to allow administration of the vaccine. And what I mean by that is we have a certain number of our paramedics that we are training, and we have applied with the state to allow to be vaccinators. So we're going to hopefully be able to supplement the Department of Health with a number of people out there who are able to administer the vaccine. We're simply waiting on the approval process to come through from the state right now. So more on that if and when that's approved. Information related to vaccines and related to the testing for that point. There's a whole host of websites out there, but at the end of the day, it seems like the majority of them point back to either the Virginia Department of Health's webpage or to the Center for Disease Control, and that's vdh.virginia.gov, and you can select the Western Tidewater Health District from that page, or the cdc.gov, which provides a lot of information as well. In addition to that, we have the City of Suffolk's webpage, and it has also a pushback or a link back to the Department of Health's web, but it also has some City of Suffolk specific information on there that employees and citizens might find helpful. Public registration for the vaccine, again, to Councilman Goldberg's point, we are still awaiting the CDC, we're waiting on VDH to let us know when that is going to occur. Sometimes you will see with some of these, the decisions that are made with respect to testing and to vaccination, it appears to be different depending on what city you're in. And that's really just a factor of most cities have an independent health department for their own jurisdiction. Suffolk has a health department, a regional health department with the Western Tidewater Health District. So that is the reasoning for some of the, I guess, disparities in which you may see from one city to the next. So with that, I'll remind everyone to please continue to wear your mask, social distance, and to wash your hands. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you for your presentation, Chief. Council, questions, comments? Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I had some concerns and questions. The health department here in Suffolk
Yes, sir.
is closed.
Yes, sir.
People have to go to Franklin or Smithfield. I want to request that we open our health department in Suffolk so that people will be able to utilize that for vaccine rather than to go all the way. I know they use that as an excuse that social service is part of the building, so they can't have part of it open, not the other. I disagree with that. I know it can be done, and I'm requesting that this takes place, that we will have our health department open here in Suffolk so that our people will be able to utilize that. Also, we need to be able to get locations where people will be able to go close to their communities, like East Suffolk Rec Center, the Hilton Gardens Inn. My church, the East End Baptist Church on Portsmouth Boulevard, have volunteered, told me I could see this. They are open, are willing to give their space where people will be able to take the shots whenever they are available. I am getting a lot of calls and concerns about why they can't get the shots.
Understood.
And that question is out there and need to be answered. People want to know why they can't get the shots and when and where can they get the shots. So that's the reason why I'm saying we need to get more locations that people can take the shots and open our health department back up.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that question and comment, sir. I think the factor of where they can get the vaccines right now, I don't know, and I may be speaking out of turn for the health department here, but I don't know that it's necessarily an issue with facility space to do that as much as it is for staffing for the health department and supply of vaccine. I don't know if anyone noticed, but on one of the slides, the A, B, and C slides there was a little chart at the bottom of it that indicated vaccine availability. And when you get to the 1C group, there was nothing in that little gas tank indicator saying there was vaccine available for that. And again, I may be speaking out of turn for the health department on that, but I do know that they are dealing with issues with staffing and whatnot, and we continue to work with them daily to try to put more vaccine clinics in the city of Suffolk so that our staff and our population aren't having to go to Portsmouth Health Department or to Franklin or to Smithfield, and so we can make it available for our citizens.
Yeah, I know we are larger than Franklin and Smithfield,
Yes, sir.
and our health department are closed, and we have to go to them. It's just something wrong with that picture.
Sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We have also been working with or speaking with one of the local physicians groups, and we put them in contact with the Hilton Garden folks. They are planning, I can't give you the date right now because they haven't solidified it, but they've ordered about 4,000 doses, and and they plan on using the Hilton at that point. And I'm thinking that's going to come to fruition in about a week. We've been talking to Dr. James about opening the health department building, or the Health and Human Services building, at least for the vaccination portion. And I've talked to her, Z and I talked to her this afternoon also. I would like to have that date tonight, but I don't have that date at this time, the exact date that they would be administering those shots there. But I hope to have that information. This is evolving daily, and I hope to have better information as we move ahead in the next few days.
Yeah, and I thank the fire department, Deputy Chief, for you all offering that service as well, because there are a lot of doctor's offices as well as your medics that are able to do this, and that will assist a lot of these areas saying that they don't have enough
Yes, sir.
support. So I'm glad to hear you all stepping up to the plate, saying that you're making yourself available for that purpose.
Our goal in that is to try to take a little bit of stress off of the health department that would let them go out and focus on the public. If we can do, perhaps the rest of our staff, the police department, the rest of the city employees, whatever we can do, we're moving as hard as we can towards that to be able to do it.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Fawcett.
Just a couple of things, and I'm going to piggyback off of the Vice Mayor. The Health Department not being open in Suffolk is ridiculous. It's not open for our people here, and the many services that they require, they can't get anything other than going to other cities is ridiculous. But anyway, he's already talked to that, and the managers talked to it. We need to get our health department back up and running. Do you happen to know by any chance, Chief, about the seniors in the assisted livings and all, how that progress is going? Is it going at all? I've heard some differences of whether some are and some aren't, and not sure where that's at. If you can just maybe comment on it, if you know.
I believe that it's going. I don't have any data or any hard information to report on yet. The health department, when it comes to that population and distribution to those groups, really hasn't been working with us to do that. I think there's a lot of work that's been done in that, towards getting the long-term care facilities done. But again, I'm sorry, they haven't been coordinating that with us. They've been working directly with the facilities.
And looking around, Suffolk, for whatever reason, it seems like we're really slow coming out of the ground with this vaccine compared to other localities. There's some, like in the western part of the state and all, that got ramped up really quick, and we kind of seem to be, Tidewater seems to be on the lower end of that scale. It needs to be picked up a lot quicker so that we can get our people vaccinated. In the VAM system, I want to thank you personally, because I know you worked with HR and the manager and all to get the VAM system up and running, and it worked great for me. People I've heard that got in, so I want to thank you for that. The other part of that, and you touched on it, that's really important, that I've seen around the country where they've had some of these clinics giving shots, and fire personnel have, in fact, been doing the vaccines. I've seen a couple of news clips on it just the other night. So I applaud you and your department for wanting to step up and help do these vaccines, because those paramedics are very capable. I mean, we give multiple shots in the street of different drugs on most calls that require that. Yet, what is the roadblock to allow them to administer this vaccine? And how long do you think before we get an approval that these guys and gals could do that?
Well, I'm not sure if I could say what the roadblock is. I can tell you that there were 2 applications that we had to fill out. I believe one was with the Department of Health, and I think the other was with the CDC. Those have been done, those were completed some time ago. And in talking with the health department, they're talking as though if they don't receive it back fairly soon, they're going to try to figure out how to fast track it or approach it from their end to make that happen. So again, I hate to keep saying we're at the mercy of someone else, but we've done what we can do right now to make this happen. In concert with filling out the applications, we're already training our personnel on this vaccine that they would be administering. The skill of administering is something they do all the time.
Right.
We have that skill, they have that skill. It's just a matter of becoming familiar with this different medication, one that's different than what we normally administer.
Well, hopefully we can find a way to get that approval, because as we can get the vaccines in, and if we're fortunate enough to get some satellite areas open like the Constance, Hilton, and maybe some other things locally, this could be a big game changer, because it's going to be manpower intensive to get, because once you open the gates up, it's going to happen. So it's going to be very manpower intensive to have people that can do that. And I hope that you can move that along and get that approval. Thanks for your
One
presentation.
at our best speed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate your help with me the other day and getting me through the system. But I find that the average person, when they call in, they get on the list and they say, you're on the list, you'll be in touch. And people are waiting to be brought back in or be notified from CDC or whoever it is that they're doing. And they're somewhat reaching out further because they're not getting the answer back, or they're not getting in line. They don't know where they all might be in line. So some of them have gone to other areas and reached out and have just called, and they say, come on down, we'll give you the shot. Some in North Carolina, some up in the Petersburg area. I've had those calls. They get right in line. It seems that we somehow in this area, as Mr. Fawcett has said, a little slower than most, and I really think we need to pick that up because our people want to know. We've had emails, all of us have had emails about that, and we need to pick it up a little bit to do that on that end. And the system itself, I don't think is friendly enough for a lot of people to get in and how to do that, and I think that needs to be also worked on. But I thank you for y'all's effort for the city and what you're doing for all the city employees and getting them on, so we can move ahead on that end.
Councilman Williams. Thank you, Mayor. Chief, thank you. I'm going to piggyback off what Vice Mayor said. I would love to see the Suffolk Health Department open. It's right there in the heart of town. There's a lot of people who do not have transportation. It's a perfect location. I think we need to work on getting the health department open. And also, when I was looking at the your presentation, I noticed that the 2 Suffolk distribution centers, they are doing the vaccination every other week, but the other location is doing it weekly. Can you tell me why? Do you have an idea?
Yes, sir. I've asked for that to be weekly, but it's reported to me that it's a staffing issue and a vaccine availability issue. And I'm sorry, I know that's not a very good answer, and I wish if there were something I could do or we could do to turn them on weekly, we would certainly do that. But I continue, as I said, to speak with the health department daily and try to get them to give us more sites. Again, I think that us getting our personnel able to give vaccines, then our only barrier becomes the issue of getting the vaccine. So if that moves ahead, hopefully we can change some of that stuff.
Yes, I agree with Vice Mayor Bennett and also the other councilmen. My concern is now you're not worrying about locations for the people. I think that some type of way we can get the churches involved where people who don't have transportation, they go to church, they're right in most of all the communities. Somewhere you get enough vaccination, I'd like to see, can you reach out to them some type of way they can assist with people from all communities And because, you have almost church in every community, and that'll help it out, because this is, like you said, some people don't travel that far, some people don't have cars, and unfortunately, we need to make it easy as possible for this situation. This is very serious.
Yes, sir. Agree.
And thank you for your work, fire department. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. And
Appreciate
I agree
that.
100% with your comments. Thank you for those.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief. I have a few comments myself. To start with, I've had more inquiries. I agree with what everybody had to say, every one of my colleagues. I mean, this has been an ongoing issue for week after week after week, waiting for some type of resolution. And of course, everything that I've read, I mean, this is not just a local problem, it's a state problem. I read the state had almost 1 million doses, 900-some thousand, they hadn't distributed 300 yet. But even with that being said, I'm not sure that we're doing everything we can to help ourselves, if that makes any sense. I know you said the health department is responsible for whether we're administering vaccines every week or every other week. That's their decision.
Yes, sir. They're the ones that control the vaccine. So we can't do anything without the vaccine.
The health department controls the vaccine, and it seems like we're getting put on the back burner there. Our health department's closed. Looks like we're getting put on the back burner there. We need to sit down, with the forces that we have, your department, the manager's office, myself if necessary, and we need to sit down with the health department and let them know that 94,000 people don't need to be placed on the back burner, not in our city. There's no information out there. That's the biggest. I had 2 people this morning. I was actually delivering a car to an older couple, and they said, we've tried to find out how to get a vaccine, and we got a place in North Carolina, and to Councilman Goldberg's point, we called North Carolina and we got an appointment because we have a vacation home down there. There's something wrong with the system. I applaud you. I think it's a great idea that you're getting as many of your personnel certified to give these vaccines. So we need to learn how to partner better. We need to put a little bit of heat on the health department and find out why they're not being more responsive with the resources that we have, combine our resources with their resources, and make some things happen for our citizens. Most of the complaints that I have received or have been from people in the over 65 age group. They're eligible for the vaccine. It's not a matter of waiting for it. They're eligible for the vaccine. The vaccine's there. By your own admission, we got plenty of vaccine out there. But they're also in that age group that has the most difficulty trying to get the information they need to go online, to do those kind of things. And we already talked about how internet access is an issue for a lot of our citizens in the rural areas. So we need to make it easier. We need to get the information out there, and we need to light a fire under somebody to get more of a response than what we've had. So with that being said, City Manager, if you could get back with me, as soon as possible and just kind of lay out some options we may or may not have so we can address the situation. Thank you very much, Chief. Anybody else have any questions or comments? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Chief, I did have one other question for you.
Yes, sir.
Is the vaccine free?
Yes.
It's free?
Yes.
Okay.
No, well,
Somebody
let me
asked
say
that
that.
question
If
and
you
I
go-
forgot to ask it.
Let me clarify. If you go to the health department or you go to one of these vaccine clinics, yes, it's free. What the primary care doctors will or will not do when they have it and they're administering it, I don't know the answer to that.
But through any of the public health facilities, it is free?
Sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Okay, with that, we'll move to consideration of the adoption of the consent agenda, and a motion would be in order. Vice Mayor's motion, second by Councilman Goldberg. Madam Clerk, please read the roll. Call the roll.
And just to clarify, this is approval of the entire agenda, or the adoption of the entire agenda as presented, not the consent
Correct.
agenda on its own.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Duman?
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Madam Clerk, are there any speakers at this time?
Yes, there are agenda speakers at this time. The first agenda speaker is Chris Jensen, 304 Bridlewood Lane, representing Self regarding item 20, a motion to schedule a public hearing for February the 3rd, 2021, to receive public comment on an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of real property in fee simple and/or permanent and temporary easements, either by agreement or condemnation, for the Nansemond Parkway, Wilroy Road Overpass Commonwealth Railway project.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. My name is Chris Jensen. I'm President of the Bridlewood Estates Homeowners Association. As mentioned, I'm here this evening to request a vote against the motion described. My understanding from previous communications with the City Council is this project has not yet been approved. It certainly has not been discussed at a public City Council meeting. At this time, there are two viable alternatives to the current project plan proposed by the city. How can there be public comment on land acquisition without knowing the approved plan and what land needs to be acquired? Further, the other two options, adding a dedicated turn lane at the intersection as originally planned in 2016, or the alternate routing of the overpass I have submitted to the city, both represent less taking of land while still meeting the city's stated requirements of eliminating traffic delays due to train crossings and allowing traffic to continue at speed through the intersection. In addition, both options will require millions of dollars less investment by taxpayers to accomplish the project. I know you've probably been told that these two options are not viable due to the existence of a Hampton Road Sanitation District forced main sewer line running adjacent to Nansemond Parkway and Wilroy Road. I have received the same response on multiple occasions when asking why the original 2016 project was canceled and why my alternate routing cannot be considered. I finally went to HRSD directly and was told by their engineering department that they approved the 2016 project and they have no concerns with widening the intersection. The HRSD engineer was very surprised to discover that their forced main was being used as the scapegoat for canceling the original 2016 project. An additional concern raised by city representatives for both alternatives is the ability to handle anticipated future traffic loads through this intersection. The project plan cites the 2035 City of Suffolk comprehensive planning estimates that traffic through this intersection will double or triple to 23,800 vehicles from current totals, with only a corresponding 30% increase in city population. Since this number seemed unrealistic, I looked at the actual measured traffic loads available. Virginia Department of Transportation measured 11,099 vehicles in a full day in 2013. And projecting the data measured by this project in 2018 over a full day showed a decrease to about 7,000 to 9,000 vehicles. This history of the traffic load over time does not seem to support the projected information in the 2035 comprehensive plan, and real data should be considered more strongly for planning purposes. Also, the rebuild of the Kings Highway Bridge will undoubtedly decrease traffic load on this intersection, which is not even considered in the planning documents available to the public. Another issue with the current project plan is that it fails to execute a root cause analysis to identify why there are traffic backups at the intersection. The assumption is that train crossings are the culprit for the lengthy backups that stretch as far as Driver or even Shoulders Hill Road. The project reports provide no information to support this supposition. From my observations as someone who basically lives at this intersection, I can state that the long backups only occur when there's a traffic incident on Interstate 664 or Route 58. Yes, when a train crosses near the intersection, traffic backs up. But these backups are usually only half a mile, and it quickly clears after the train crossing completes. After the city restriction on train crossings during rush hour was enacted, there are still some delays with long backups, and every backup has had a corresponding incident on I-664 South or Route 58. While there is a traffic light along this route, the only solution to preventing delays from diverting traffic is to provide other options to drivers, such as the Kings Highway Bridge being rebuilt. There are several other reasons why the alternate options discussed this evening should be considered over the current proposed plan, besides saving millions of dollars and requiring less taking of land to meet the city's objectives. These have been communicated to the project manager, office of the city manager, and in response to public hearings on the project. These issues include a lack of Americans with Disabilities Act compliance for sidewalk grade, destruction of wetlands, an unusually unsafe overpass bridge during icy conditions, the cost of future road maintenance, and the negative impact to Bridlewood Estates and Equine Center, a $10 to $12 million neighborhood with an attached small business. Both alternate options fully address these concerns. Since both alternate options to the current plan are now viable, and since it appears that either the alternatives can be done less expensively while meeting the city's objectives, I strongly urge that the City Council consider voting against this motion and require a serious reevaluation of the project to be executed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is Arlen Winslow, 5,000 Bob White Lane, representing Self, regarding item 20, a motion to schedule a public hearing for February 3rd, 2021, to receive public comment on an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of real property in fee simple and/or permanent temporary easements, either by agreement or condemnation, for the Nansen Parkway, Wilroy Road overpass Commonwealth Railway project.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilman, I don't have quite the data that Chris had, but I have a solution that I'd like to read to you, and for y'all to consider this also in the intersection of Railroad Road and National Parkway. It's not too late to go 58. The city of Suffolk is not considering the entire problem with proposed overpass at Railroad and National Parkway. While it's true with the existing layout, the trains and the stoplight at the intersection of Railroad and National Parkway, this results in a backup with the traffic trying to make a right-hand turn. Why spend all this money needed for an overpass and take more of the beautiful equestrian center, pastures, and still not adequate addressing the situation on hand, two-lane roads and railroads with continuous increase in traffic? Another thing to take in consideration is the 500-plus acre farm land which is next door to the equestrian center on the Nansemond River. This center could be sold at any time and developed at any time. What would a development of this magnitude do to the overpass? In addition, if Amazon is happy with the city of Suffolk, this could result in more businesses trying to bring routes to Suffolk, Northgate Commercial Parkway, and surrounding area. The answer to Suffolk's backup issue on the existing two-lane Nansemond Parkway is to use the existing four lane that has already been executed. The 4 lanes at Northgate Commerce Parkway can be used to connect to the 6 lanes, 58, west and east, with no train traffic. The result, saving money while thinking of future expansion of the Northgate Commerce section of the city. I will again end it with the starting as I did. It's not too late to go 58. Thank you for your time and consideration.
That concludes the speakers, Mayor.
We will now have a presentation of the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please present items for consideration.
Item number 7, an ordinance to accept and appropriate funds from the Library of Virginia Circuit Court Records Preservation Program for the Clerk of the Circuit Court. Item number 8, an ordinance to accept and appropriate funds from the Target Corporation for the Suffolk Parks and Recreation Department. Item number 9, an ordinance to appropriate and transfer funds from the general fund unassigned fund balance to the Capital Projects Fund for the Water Access, Nansemond River, and Downtown Implementation Plan Festival Events, Venue, and Market Hall Capital Projects. Item number 10, an ordinance to accept and appropriate funds from the Virginia Office of Emergency Medical Services Rescue Squad Assistance Fund for the Suffolk Department of Fire and Rescue. And item number 11, a resolution approving the issuance by the Suffolk Redevelopment Housing Authority of its revenue bonds for the acquisition, construction, renovation, rehabilitation, and equipping of the approximately 114-unit Place 1 Apartments multifamily housing facility located in the county of Henrico, Virginia.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview of the items.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of council, in regards to item 7, the city has received $13,984 grant from the Library of Virginia Circuit Court's Records Preservation Program to assist the clerk of the court with the preservation of record books. Adoption of this ordinance will increase the planned revenues and expenditures of the Consolidated Grants Fund for FY21 by the same amount, and there's no required local match. Item 8 provides for the accepts and appropriates funds in amount of $1,000 from Target Corporation to support the Suffolk Parks and Recreation Youth Outdoor Soccer Program. Adoption of the ordinance will increase the planned revenues and expenditures of the Consolidated Grant Fund budget for FY21 by $1,000, and again, there is no local match. In regards to item 9, it appropriates $1,895,000 from the general fund unassigned fund balance to the Nassmith River Water Access and also the Downtown Implementation Plan Festival Events and Market Hall capital projects for property acquisition, project design, and construction. Adoption of the ordinance will increase the planned revenues and expenditures of the FY General Fund Capital Projects Fund budgets by $1,895,000. In regards to item 10, the city has received a $46,475.75 grant from the Virginia Office of Emergency Medical Services Rescue Squad Assistance Fund for the acquisition of new emergency medical equipment for the Department of Fire and Rescue. Adoption of the ordinance will increase the planned revenues and expenditure again of the Consolidated Grants Fund for FY21 by the same amount and requires a $46,475.75 local match, which is provided which is currently provided within the Consolidated Grants Fund. In regards to items 11, the Suffolk Redevelopment and Housing Authority held a public hearing and adopted a resolution authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds in the amount of $18 million for Place One Preservation Limited Partnership acquisition of construction for acquisition, construction, renovation, and equipping of a 114 multifamily rental housing projects. And again, this is in Henrico County. The Internal Revenue Code of the Code of Virginia requires this bond issuance to be approved by the governing body of the city. This action will not have any obligation for the city or impact on the city's bonding capacity. Should you have any questions on this, we do have Mrs. Harriet Reynolds of the Bond and Financial Counsel for Suffolk Redevelopment and Housing Authority here with us tonight, I believe. And that concludes the items.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. Are there any questions on any of these items? Councilman Fawcett?
No questions, but I'd like to adopt the consent agenda as presented and written.
Motion, members. Second, Vice Mayor. Any discussion of the motion? If not, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Duman?
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to public hearings. An ordinance to rezone and amend the official zoning map of the city of Suffolk to change the zoning from M2, Heavy Industrial Zoning District, to B2, General Commercial Zoning District for property located at 5045 Nesman Parkway, zoning map 20, parcel 22J, account number 306003953, RZN 2020-007, conditional. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview of the item.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. At this time, Mr. David Hingley, Director of Planning and Community Development, will provide the staff report.
Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, Mr. City Manager, as stated before you, you have a request RZN 2020-007 in Northgate Commerce Park, Parcel J, submitted by C. Burt Cutright, SNC LLC, applicant on behalf of the McGowan Group, Inc., property owner in accordance with sections 31304 and 31405 of the Unified Development Ordinance to rezone and amend the official zoning map of the city of Suffolk to change the zoning from M2 Heavy Industrial Zoning District to B2 General Commercial Zoning District for property located at 5045 Nesman Parkway, zoning map 20, parcel 22J. The affected area is further identified as being located in the Cypress voting borough, zoned M2 Heavy Industrial Zoning District. The 2035 Comprehensive Plan designates this area as part of the Northern Growth Area Suburban Use District. As stated, shown on the map is the Northern Growth Area. The star in question locates the facility. Up in the upper right-hand corner where you see the highlight area, there is a depiction of the parcel. There is a better depiction in your staff report that shows the actual configuration. This one's a little large. It is a 4-acre tract. The area that's hatched to the west of it going towards Driver is the remainder of the 32-acre parcel in the front end of Northgate. For your location, the area where Amazon is built is down on the lower left of the M2 on that map. This is the configuration of the parcel in question. It is 4 acres. It does have frontage on Nesmith Parkway and on Northgate Commerce Park. This is an example showing possible uses that are allowed under the proffered conditions that they have submitted. This is not a proffered site plan. This just depicts 2 uses that could occur on there. This is the basis for the analysis for the traffic that the traffic analysis ran on the site and found it to be acceptable. These are the proffered conditions. What they do is they remove any residential component that could be considered to be adverse to the M2 district. The remainder of that 32-acre tract remains as M2 industrial, as does the immediate parcel in behind there. And on December 15th, Planning Commission held a public hearing and recommended 7-0 in favor of the request as submitted. I stand to answer any questions at the termination of the public hearing.
Before we open the public hearing, Madam Clerk, please explain the timing system.
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and their address. We will have a 10-minute period for the proponents, a 15-minute period for those in opposition, and then an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal.
This is a public hearing. Will the first speaker please come forward and provide their name and address?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, John Babineau. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, SNC LLC, Seaburt Cutright, and also Eric Olson, who is here today. Here to answer any questions that council may have. This project, as has been presented by the city, is in that corridor now, which is zoned heavy industrial, looking to and asking for it to be zoned to a B2 to accommodate the uses, examples of the uses that were depicted, which would be a convenience store, a gas station, as well as fast food. As you know, this is the area where the Amazon has developed their site. It's a many-mile stretch without these kind of facilities available. One of the planning commissioners commented that she's got to ride 8-10 miles to buy a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk and fill her car up. So it is, I think, a needed use in the area. It's a good buffer from heavy industrial. It will help. Should help on traffic too, instead of heavy equipment coming in and out of what could be a heavy industrial site. Obviously, it'll be vehicular traffic. The traffic impact study that was completed by our expert was a pre-COVID, using the city figures and pre-COVID traffic numbers. So we would suggest to each of you that this would be an appropriate redevelopment, or if you will, rezoning of the site. We'd ask for favorable consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Are there any other speakers that would like to speak in favor of this motion? Not motion. Hearing none, sir, would anybody like to speak as an proponent? Opponent. Hearing none, would you like a rebuttal, sir?
No, sir, not unless council needs to hear anything else from me. Thank you.
Okay. Public hearing is now closed. Council?
I'd like to offer a motion of approval.
Fawcett?
Yes, I will second the motion, but I'd just like to make a comment to the project. I think it's a great project for that stretch right there in that intersection. You know, sometime later this year, Amazon's going to come online, but it is a true statement between Wheelroy Road on the upper end by the gas station there, all the way to actually the Cracker Barrel and the Lowe's area. That's the only facilities you have for any type of services at all. So I think this is a win-win situation if it comes to fruition, to give a little bit for the community, but this will also enhance the Amazon people a facility to go to get some quick, whatever they need during their break, and it stands to really be a big plus. I hope it comes to fruition, and it's the right piece for it, and it's the right location, and travel-wise, the roadways are adequate for it. So thank you, and tell the Cartwrights I thank them for submitting it, and hope to see it come. So I'm seconding the motion.
Further discussion of the motion? Before we vote, I'd also like to say I totally agree with Councilman Fawcett's comments. That's an great area. There's a lack of those amenities there. There's not a convenience store. There's not a place to get gas. You have to go into Chesapeake, just like Councilman Fawcett said, and heading back towards Suffolk, it's a long ride, I guess almost back to 58 and 58. So with that being said, we have a motion and a second. Yes, sir.
I'd
Councilman Goldberg.
like to say the same thing that you said, and I know the developers from many years ago, and they do fine work and responsible work, and I can only support their effort.
Thank you. Well, we've got a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward? Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Dooman?
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, our next public hearing is an ordinance to rezone and amend the official zoning map of the city of Suffolk to amend the previously approved proffered conditions for property located at 273 South Saratoga Street, zoning map 34G 23, paragraph A, parcels 114, asterisk 115, asterisk 116, 114, asterisk 115, asterisk 116, asterisk 1, 114, asterisk 115, asterisk 116, asterisk 2, and 114, asterisk 115, asterisk 116, asterisk 3. Account numbers 351-342-000, 354-000, 339, 354-000, 340, and 354-000-341, RZN 2020-008 conditional. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview of the item.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, as you'll notice, item 13 and item 14 will be companion. Obviously, they're going to be voted on separately, but I just want to point out the relationship there. With that, David Hanley, Director of Planning and Community Development, will be at the podium to provide the staff report.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, Mr. City Manager, as stated before you, you have rezoning request RZN 2020-008, which was submitted by William R. Crosby of Golden Dreams LLC, applicant and property owner, in accordance with sections 31304 and 31305 of the Unified Development Ordinance to rezone and amend the official zoning map of the city of Suffolk in order to amend previously approved proffered conditions for property located at 273 South Saratoga Street. Zoning map 34G 23 parentheses A, parcels 114, star 115, star 16, 114, star 115, star 116, star 1, 114, star 115, star 116, star 2, and 114, star 115, star 116, star 3. The purpose of this request is to modify the number and mix of residential unit types previously approved pertaining to the development of Peanut Crossing, RZN 2019-006 conditional. The affected area is further identified as being located in the Whaleyville CBD Central Business Zoning District. The 2035 Comprehensive Plan designates this area as part of the Central Growth Area Core Support Use District. As stated on the map, you see the star locating Peanut Crossing that you have seen in most part before. And we're going to try to see why, Andy, I am sitting here clicking and nothing's happening. Whoa. Okay. All right. I apologize, but in the center part of the map is Peanut Crossing, located on South Saratoga Street, next to the railroad track. This is an aerial showing the facility. If you pay particular attention to the area of the building that has the red roof, that is the area of the site that we're talking about. It's a 2.25 acre site, interior into there, that will be carved out as far as the conditions go regarding this site. This shows a survey of the site for that purpose. And this shows the configuration of the proposed building in here. Now, what this site has is a cap on number of units. That will remain the same. The cap is 225. What is being changed is the configuration that in the original zoning case required in excess of 80% of those units to be one bedroom or less, as in studio apartment, for that facility, and then the remainder could be larger bedrooms. What this does is this is a proposed 76-unit building that has 2 and 3 bedroom units in it. Not the number of units will not change, it's the bedroom numbers that will change. So that would remain the same. And then the remaining units in there, which is, there's 58 permitted now, so it's about a little less than 100, would be subject to the 80% rule, still remaining under that condition. So that therefore the number doesn't change, just the unit makeup changes on the 76 on that 2.25 acre site. The Planning Commission heard this case on December 15th and recommends that this council approve the request as requested on by a 7-0 vote on December 15th. As stated, this is a companion case with the next conditional use case, but it does require 2 separate public hearings because there are conditions in the conditional use one that are separate from this one that I will touch on. I can answer any questions at the termination of the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley. Before we open the public hearing, Madam Clerk, please explain the timing system.
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and their address. We will have a 10-minute period for the proponents, a 15-minute period for those in opposition, and then an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal.
This is a public hearing. Will the first speaker please come forward and provide their name and address?
Good evening, members of City Council. My name is Edwin Gaskin. I'm the developer of the Peanut Crossing project located at 273 South Saratoga Street. We've been working on that project for the better part of a year now and are successfully rounding third to deliver phase 1 here in a few weeks, the first 58 apartments. I'm really here as the contract seller of the parcel that Mr. Hanley referred to, and I'm happy to introduce the contract buyer of that parcel, Ms. Jen Serb over here, to my left with Serber Development, who is proposing to build the building that Mr. Hanley demonstrated, the 76-unit building called Saratoga Place. Both Ms. Serber and myself are here for questions that you may have, and of course we recommend approval.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please. Anyone else in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone in opposition to this ordinance? Hearing no additional speakers, the public hearing is now closed. As an ordinance has been presented for council's consideration. Councilman Fawcett?
Just, David, I had one question. I may be asking the wrong question here, but I'm going to throw it out there. I may put my foot in my mouth, but anyway, the proffers, because it was proffered at one point for a 2-bedroom, is going to 3?
That 80% of the cap on the 225 would be 1 bedroom or less, as in 1 bedroom or studio apartments. Because this building has nothing but 2 and 3, it would exceed that cap, and hence the need for the rezoning.
So
to remove that from this portion of the site.
So it didn't change the proffer for student ratio of schools or anything of that nature?
I'm going to, the Vice Mayor and I have had a discussion regarding this point. In the CBD, it is assumed that adequate public facilities exist to support the proposed development within that district. And so we look at schools, but they are not required to address adequate capacity.
It kind of blows my mind because it's always been, we've addressed the adequate
But
facility.
this is kind of, I hate to say it, it's an incentive for redevelopment of the central business
I
district
get it.
downtown.
But we still got a school capacity problem.
Yeah, you do on this one of about 8 students at Forest Glen, I think, middle school, is where the impact would occur.
Go ahead.
Councilman Goldberg?
And there's no impact. That was going to be my question.
They attend Hill Point Elementary, that has capacity, and Lakewood High School. So Forest Glen is the middle school, and it has under current numbers, it would have an adverse impact of 8 students. But as stated, based upon the UDO, we do not consider that under the current ordinance.
Okay. And just sort of a point of order, you said 1 bedroom or less. How
Yes.
can you have less than 1 bedroom?
A studio.
Yeah, like a studio is a bedroom. Isn't it?
Well, from architecture school.
Just wondering.
Well, it doesn't have a formal wall around it, so therefore
I
it's not
got
an
you.
enclosed space.
You just live in that space.
Yes.
I got you. All right, just wondering.
I'll catch you in every corner. I'll move for approval.
Got a motion for approval?
Second.
Got a second by Councilman Goldberg. Any further discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Dooman?
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Alrighty, our next public hearing is an ordinance to amend the previously approved conditions pertaining to the establishment of a multifamily apartment complex on property located at 273 South Saratoga Street, zoning map 34G, 23, parentheses A, I do all these numbers again, parcels 114*115*116, 114*115*116*1, 114*115*116*2, and 114*115*116*3. Account numbers 351342000, 354000339, 354000340, and 354000341, CUP 2020-019. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview of the item.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, again, Mr. Hanley's at the podium to provide the staff report.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, Mr. City Manager, as stated before you, you have conditional use permit request CUP 2020-019 that was submitted by William R. Cosby of Golden Dreams LLC, applicant and property owner in accordance with sections 31306 and 31406 of the Unified Development Ordinance in order to amend the previously approved conditions pertaining to the establishment of a multifamily apartment complex on property located at 273 South Saratoga Street, zoning map 34G 23 parentheses A, parcel 114*115*116, 114*115*116*1, 114*115*116*2, and 114*115*116*3. The purpose of this request is to modify the number and mix of residential unit types and to allow the construction of a new building pertaining to the development of the Peanut Crossing CUP 2019-013. The affected area is further identified as being located in the Whaleyville voting borough, zone CBD, Central Business Zoning District. The 2035 Comprehensive Plan designates this area as part of the Central Growth Area Core Support Use District. As shown before, the star locates Peanut Crossing. Again, in the center part of the site is the site. And again, if you remember the red building, it is the building off to the lower left of the site on this one. The original CUP had a condition in it that stated that all units had to be within existing buildings. This proposal proposes to construct a new building and remove that building. That building is not rated as one of the historic buildings that is on the site. So it could be demolished without affecting the historic ranking that's on that site. They proposed a conceptual dwelling, which would be deemed under architectural terms an urban loft industrial style building. It's very urban in form and would fit well with the urban form of the existing Peanut Crossing industrial buildings. There is a condition on there that they come close to emulating that site on the site plan, and that the numbers remain essentially as stated on the previously stated one. There is a kind of a repeat on the conditions regarding the density on the apartment dwelling units. In December 15th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and recommended 7-0 in favor of the condition as submitted. I stand to answer any questions at the termination of the public hearing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hanley. Before we open the public hearing, Madam Clerk, please explain the timing system.
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and address. We will have a 10-minute period for the proponents, a 15-minute period for those in opposition, and then an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal.
This is a public hearing. Will the first speaker please come forward and provide their name and address? Anyone to speak in favor?
Edwin Gaskin again, still speaking in favor. Let me know if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. Do we have any other speakers to speak in favor of this ordinance? If not, do we have anyone who'd like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, this public hearing is now closed. A motion is ordered. What is the pleasure of council?
Move to approve.
Move for approval, Council Goldberg.
Second.
Second from Councilman Johnson. Any further discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Duman?
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Our next public hearing is an ordinance to grant a conditional use permit to establish a daycare, child day center on property located at 3575 Bridge Road, Suites 1 through 3, zoning map 12, parcel 55*1D*1E, account number 3060000276, CUP 2020-22. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview of the item.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, again, Mr. David Hanley, Director of Planning and Community Development, will provide the staff report.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, Mr. City Manager, before you have request CUP 2020-022 submitted by Trolana Keaton, applicant on behalf of Bennett's Creek Crossing LLC, property owner, in accordance with sections 31306 and 31406 of the Unified Development Ordinance, to establish a child daycare center on property located at 3575 Bridge Road Suites 1-3, zoning map 12, parcels 55*1D*1E. The affected area is further identified as being located in the Sleepy Hole voting borough, Zone B2, General Commercial Zoning District. The 2035 Comprehensive Plan designates this area as being within the Northern Growth Area Entering Suburban Use District. Pardon me. Located on the map, you see this star again in the Northern Growth Area. It is in the Harris Teeter Shopping Center on the end unit facing Shoulders Hill Road. It consists of 3 units on this facility. They are the end units. They will have an outdoor play area and an indoor play area associated with this facility. The outdoor area, because it is adjacent to a travel area, will be bollard and will be fenced to protect the children. The number of children proposed for this facility is 72 with 12 staff members. They will operate from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And this shows the configuration of the indoor area. Inside, in that center core area, is an indoor play area. On December 15th, Planning Commission held a public hearing on this item and recommended 7-0 in favor of this request. I stand to answer any questions at the termination of the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hanley, before we open the public hearing, Madam Clerk, please explain the timing system.
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and address. We will have a 10-minute period for the proponents, a 15-minute period for those in opposition, and then an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal.
This is a public hearing. Will the first speaker please come forward and provide their name and address?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Trelana Keaton. I reside at 3428 Bob White Lane in Suffolk, Virginia, 23435, and I'm here representing Joyful Care Children's Academy. I feel that Joyful Care Children's Academy would be a great addition to this area because we will provide care for essential workers. We will also help keep up with the economic growth because there's a lot of new homes and businesses being added to this area. We will provide care for the employees in the Bennett's Creek Shopping Center and, of course, create jobs. The facility will specialize in infant and toddler care. I plan to network with the Infant and Toddler Specialist Network so that way they can give us even more guidance on how to provide specialized care in infant and toddler, since there are only a few centers in the direct area that take infants and toddlers. That's all I have to speak on tonight. Sorry,
Thank
sir.
you, ma'am. All right, our next speaker, please. Anyone like to speak in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition? You have one coming?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Mr. Les Scott. I reside at 432 Spur Lane, Circle, Chesapeake, Virginia. And I want to just speak in favor of Ms. Trelana Keaton in trying to get her child care facility established. I met Ms. Keaton about 2008. We're on active duty officers together, and it's always been her vision to take care of children. She has extensive background in social work. As she spoke a few minutes ago, I do believe that she has a lot to offer for the community. And I think once she gets her business established and this is approved, be no doubt in my mind and no doubt in any of the future customers that they will be very, very satisfied. And that's all I have, and hopefully approval.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Do we have anyone else who would like to speak in favor? Would you have anyone who would like to speak in opposition? Ma'am, would you like a rebuttal?
No, sir, I'm good.
All right, thank you. More speakers? This public hearing is closed.
Mayor, I'm right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Look up. I'm actually not in opposition. I just couldn't get all the way across the lobby to get in here quick enough. When I found out that this was a veterans project, my name is Kelly Hingler from 9345 Eclipse
Ms.
Drive.
Hangler, I'm sorry, we've already closed.
Sir, you guys are rushing through these. I will pen that as a point of order because we have people outside and we need to be able to get in the door. We're not allowed to sit in here. So I appreciate it. But thank you in support of our veterans in the CUP.
Consult with the city attorney, please.
Only persons who are part of the council can make a point of order objection, so that would be up to the council as to what they want to do. But the public hearing has been closed. You are required to be open again.
Need a motion to do that?
You've already closed the public hearing. I'm ready to make a motion to move forward.
I second.
Get a motion and a second to approve.
Well, I'm going to make a motion. I haven't made a motion yet.
Okay.
I just wanted to talk to Ms. Keaton before I made my motion.
Absolutely.
Anyway, Ms. Keaton, I had the pleasure, I live very close to the location where you're placing the daycare center. And although I had several reservations about this location because of it being in a major shopping center, the heavily traffic-controlled area with the travel lanes of the amount of traffic that flows through there, and the entrance that comes in that heavy trucks come into to deliver to the back of Harris Teeter. I did go out and measure your playground area, which I think is very tight. It has a magnolia tree in the middle of the playground area, which I don't know if you plan on removing that tree in order to put the fence line around it. I do appreciate the fact that you're going to put the bottles down just to protect the children. So, you know, I kind of looked at all of this, and I'm looking at the age group of 72 children in there in a major shopping center. And my point is I'm wondering, you know, these toddlers can do kind of crazy things, and they can get out of that doorway, and the first thing they're going to do is be in the travel lane. There's not much room between the doorway and a major roadway. So I'm very concerned about it, but I didn't want to disapprove your project. I wanted to just let you know what my concerns were. And I'm willing to give you an opportunity and not give you a denied motion here, but I would like you to take into consideration, and I know you're trying to do good for the public in the vicinity, and it's growing out there in my area very much, and there's a great need for what you're doing. But I want you to take every precaution you can to protect those toddlers from getting out of that building, and to be sure that someone is supervising them in the playground, so in the event a vehicle decides to not go down the roadway of that shopping center, they may be able to react a little bit. So I applaud you for wanting to do it, but it's a very busy area there with the businesses next to you also. So I'm going to give you an opportunity, and I'm going to ask for approval on this, and I'm going to watch it and hope that it turns out the best for you. I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just trying to give you my point of view here because I'm a little worried. And hopefully you'll take that worry out of my system as you move forward with your project. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion for approval.
Motion
Second.
Second. Got a motion and a second from Vice Mayor Bennett. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Duman?
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, and our final public hearing is an ordinance authorizing an agreement between the City of Suffolk, Virginia, and Tidewater Block LLC pertaining to the lease of a certain portion of an abandoned railroad right-of-way owned by the City of Suffolk, tax map 33, parcel X, account number 253112700. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview of the item.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, again, Mr. Hanley is at the podium. He will give the staff report.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, Mr. City Manager, for your consideration tonight, we have an ordinance authorizing an agreement between the City of Suffolk and Tidewater Block LLC pertaining to the lease of a certain portion of the abandoned right-of-way owned by the City of Suffolk, tax map 33, parcel X. The term of the lease shall be 1 year with an option to renew the lease on an annual basis not to exceed 4 additional terms for 1 year each, and an annual lease price of $1,200 per year. Generally, the lease is of the subject property and that is needed in order to correct the encroachment by Tidewater Block LLC upon city property. Said encroachment appears to have begun an unknown number of years in the past. Execution of the lease will formally establish the city's approval for the continued encroachment of said property, including the installation of fencing by Tidewater Block for a period up to 5 years. The installation of the fence is to secure the property to prevent juveniles from climbing on block piles. That started this whole consideration. As stated, you have another star on the property located on Kenyon Road in the bend, shown on the site. Up in the middle of the site is the site. The wooded area defines the parcel to the south where the railroad track parcel is located. And this shows the proposed encroachment of about 2.25 acres, or 2.4 acres of the site adjacent to that. They are allowed to fence the property. If they do any clearing or anything else, that has to be approved by the city. There is revocation clauses in there and expiration clauses, and at the termination of the 5-year period, they would have to come back before council to renew this lease under terms at that time before that council. This did not go to the Planning Commission because it is a lease agreement. I can't answer any questions at the termination of the public hearing, though.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, if I could give a little history on this property too. This is a portion of the railroad right-of-way, as David has said. It was acquired by the city around 1998 as part of the overall railroad right-of-way acquired from Norfolk Western. It is an asset within the utility fund, and this portion has not been used, and I think the encroachment, as David said, has been there for years, and it's just come to the attention with the activity out there by the kids getting on the facilities.
Okay, thank you. Before we open the public hearing, Madam Clerk, please explain the timing system.
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and their address. We will have a 10-minute period for the proponents, a 15-minute period for those in opposition, and then an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal.
This is a public hearing. Will the first speaker please come forward and provide their name and address?
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, my name is Sam Finney. I'm representing Tidewater Block. I reside at 1700 Bowling Avenue in Norfolk. Of course, we're talking about 999 Kenyon Road in Suffolk. The property that we're talking about, I mean, back in the early 70s, I think they actually even had a $1 a year lease with the railroad to use it. Material bins have been there since that time. And just more recently, we've had four-wheelers, kids, strangely enough, building forts out of the block out there. So I'm just trying to protect them and protect our property against that. And it just makes, I would have to rearrange everything out there to be able to do this. I will certainly take care of it and do what we need to do to keep everything nice. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor? Anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this ordinance? And we'll wait a few minutes. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition? Anyone would like to speak in opposition? Sir, would you like a rebuttal? Okay. Hearing no additional speakers, this public hearing is now closed. Council, questions, comments, or a motion? Councilman...
You can see me over here.
Johnson.
Yes. Tidewater Block has been a good neighbor to our community for a long time. And this was overlooked, and he's doing us a service, trust me, by taking this piece of property and looking after it, because it's really of no use to our city. So for that, I put forth a motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Second?
Mayor, I like to second it because when I was a kid, there was a brick plant near me, and we used to play with the bricks, get in there and build and do things with the bricks. So I understand what the gentleman was talking about. So I like to second the motion, Mayor.
So they should have put the fence up back
Put
then.
the
Is that
fence
what
up
you're saying?
back a long time ago.
All right, we got a first and second. Any further discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Duman?
Yes.
The motion's approved by a vote of 7-0.
Alrighty, we have no ordinances this evening. We have a resolution in support of the Saratoga Place Development's application to the Virginia Housing Development Authority for the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview of the item.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, at this time I'd like to call Mr. Kevin Hughes, Interim Deputy City Manager, to the podium to provide the overview.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. You previously, a few minutes ago, acted positively on 2 public hearings related to this development. Saratoga Place, so those were public hearing 13 and 14. As part of their financing strategy, they are making application towards the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. That program is sponsored by the U.S. Treasury Department and overseen by what is called the Virginia Housing, formerly Virginia Housing and Development Authority. Wanted to pull a couple of items out of the 2035 comp plan that were recommendations for consideration for the city as they move forward. Those items are to establish a comprehensive approach to increasing workforce housing in Suffolk and the ability of consumers to benefit from such opportunities, develop incentives to encourage the construction of affordable housing in mixed-use communities, promote greater awareness of the city's affordable housing goals and its incentives and assistance programs, and research, identify, and pursue a variety of financing strategies to encourage availability of diverse housing types. We think this project does that, and so we are in support of this resolution in front of you. Joining me this evening is Ms. Jen Serber, who can answer any questions related to this application. Thank you.
Resolution has been presented for council's consideration. Motion would be in order. Councilman Fawcett?
Move to approve.
Second. A second from Councilman Ward. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Duman?
Yes.
Motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, we'll now move to staff reports, and this evening we have a staff report in regards to the railway crossing review. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview of the item.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. At this time, I'd like to call Mr. L.J. Hansen, Director of Public Works, to the podium to provide the staff report. Of course, you're aware we've had a lot of activity around our railroad crossings in the last few months, and we'd like to talk about those, plus some other items. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council. As the City Manager identified, we have had a number of issues as it relates to railway crossings in the last little bit of time. I thought it might be appropriate to take a little bit of time to review where we stand and some of the issues as it relates to railroad crossings in the city. Also thought it might be helpful to give some magnitude of scope. In the city, we currently have 47 at-grade crossings. That at-grade means that you have a road that goes across a railroad track at the same elevation as the railroad track, so it's not separated by a bridge or an underpass or anything like that. 32 of those at-grade crossings are across active rail lines, meaning that there's about 15 that go across rail lines that are not active. And this map kind of illustrates the areas that, that we're known to have. Suffolk, of course, is no stranger to rail. We have 5 different major rail lines and 3 different rail companies that we deal with. There are also, and worth mentioning, that there's also a number of private at-grade crossings. We don't track them. They're not part of the city's inventory. They're not something that we regulate or are responsible for in any way, but they certainly are there, and they do represent an issue for the city. And I thought I'd take a little bit of time here to kind of point out some of the elements of a railroad crossing, public versus private. In a public crossing, as you can see, is illustrated by this is on Shoulders Hill. At the crossing, there's a gate that actually physically comes down. All of the City of Suffolk's public at-grade crossings have a gate with lights, flashing lights, and a bell. That is not necessarily a mandated standard, but it is a standard that we have in the City of Suffolk, and we're fortunate that all of our public crossings do have that. There are also a number of elements that can be added to help improve safety. So in this crossing, you can see there are 4 gates. Most of the crossings that we have in the city do not have 4 gates. We do have a number of areas where we have some additional concerns, and it's certainly something that we are trying to work with the railroads to increase the number that have 4 gates. 4 gates is important because if 2 gates are down, it is potentially possible for somebody to drive around the gate. And I'll talk about that here in just a minute. Also, one of the other elements you can see on this crossing are the bollards that run down the middle of the road. That's also intended to assist in keeping people from driving around. It doesn't have to be bollards, it could be a raised median or something like that. But all of these are elements of crossings that add an element of safety. If you compare and contrast that to a private crossing, The only requirement that is for a private crossing is that you must have the railroad crossing, the X that you see there on a post. This is actually one of the better private crossings that we have. There's an orange sign to draw attention to the approaching crossing. There's a stop sign. It's clear, it's open. This is actually one of the better ones that we have. So. Over the last 5 years, we've had a total of 14 vehicle versus train incidents, accidents. There's a little bit of information up here regarding the years in 2016, 2017, respectively. We had 1 each, 4 in 2018, 2 in 2019, and unfortunately 6 in 2020. The cause of the issues, driving around the gate 7 times, that has been the cause. Vehicle stuck on the track 4 times, and the last one, failure to yield, is 3. Now, the difference between failure to yield and driving around the gate predominantly is going to be that on a private crossing, there's no gate. So if somebody drove across not recognizing that the train was coming or not giving the train enough room, that's going to be a failure to yield. With regard to severity of the incidents, 3 of the 14 incidents resulted in property damage only, 7 minor damage, and 2 major injuries and 2 fatalities. These are not numbers that we like to see, and certainly we're cognizant about this. We continue to work on things that we can do to improve railroad safety. This map, and I recognize it's a little bit difficult to see in this view, but this map illustrates where those incidents have taken place. If you look in the Wilroy Road, Nansman Parkway, that's this intersection here. There was 1 incident in 2018, and that resulted in minor injury. If you look, this is on the Portsmouth Boulevard, right about the entrance to the 6th lane. There are 5 incidents, and these are both private crossings. And those incidents, not 5 incidents, 3 incidents occurred in 2017, 2019, and 2020. And then we have a number of incidents that occur in the downtown area. Predominantly, this is Capitol and Railroad, and then we have some at Liberty, East Washington, and Saratoga, which makes up the remainder of the incidents that we see. Of course, traffic, car versus train incidents aren't the only issues that we have with railroads. We have, over the last couple of years, continued to see additional train traffic, resulting in additional train delays. The areas that we most often get complaints are from on the Commonwealth Railway corridor, along the Wilroy Road, Nansman Parkway corridors. The length of the trains, the switching of the trains, getting in and out of the marshalling yard north of Nansman Parkway has caused us a number of headaches. I know that I've heard from many of you, from your constituents, about the delays in getting home or getting to work. The next one that we hear a lot about is Main Street and Prentice Street, right here downtown near the railroad train station. That's a CSX crossing. Oftentimes we see that one right around the middle of the day, and that causes its own share of headaches. And then West Constance and Prentice Street, we also get a number of complaints about those areas. Physical crossing conditions, that's another kind of a sticky issue. The City of Suffolk Department of Public Works does not own the land as it crosses the railroad track. So for a number of feet each side of the rail, we are prohibited from doing any type of maintenance. If the railroad crossing is rough, our only recourse is to reach out to the railroad owner and ask them to make the repairs. We do have some CIP projects, and I'll talk about those here in just a minute, where we can partner with the railroad company. But if there's an issue, if there's a pothole that develops within that corridor, that is not something that we are allowed to address. And that kind of leads into the next item, that lack of authority and ability to rectify issues. When there's an issue like that, it's incredibly frustrating. We get a phone call typically from a citizen who's frustrated. They'd like us to take care of it. We reach out to the railroad. there's a delay. It takes time. They're maintaining hundreds of miles of railway, and trying to get them to respond in a timely manner is just really frustrating. We don't have the ability to control that. We do what we can. We try to work with them. One of the things that we have really tried to do is to develop partnerships with the roadmasters of the railroad companies, the different railroad companies. But of course they change, and so when you get a change in their maintenance staff, it takes us a long time to get the new guy's name, develop that relationship. It's just a continual evolution of the process. And next item is drainage issues, and while probably that's not something that you would think about most of the time with railroads, if you look at how our drainage system lays out, many times either the railroad right-of-way itself is the drainage way, or our drainage has to go across a railroad issue. And again, likewise, if the culvert under the rail is blocked, we do not have the authority to go in, clean that out. It's another one of those items we have to reach out to the rail company and have them come in and assist. Horn noise, quiet zones, of course, that's always it's always an issue. It's always something that we're aware of, and it's a part of our overall long-term scheme to try to make some of those improvements to improve safety at the crossings, which allows us to ultimately be able to develop more quiet zones. We are fortunate to have 2 in the city. Another item worth touching on here for just a bit is the shifting rail traffic patterns. It wasn't that long ago, maybe 10 years ago, most of the freight that we saw coming through the city was coal. Anybody at Health and Human Services building, they could tell you when that train came through twice a day, you could feel that coal train come through, and it was rumbling. That pattern is shifting. Coal is being less exported. More and more, what we continue to see is the increase in freight, container cargo going to the port. It's not to say there's no coal, it's just less. The increase in the number of trains along the Commonwealth line and a decrease in the number along the Norfolk Southern line. And all of that plays an effect because there's speed elements as the rail lines come together downtown. When they're shifting from the Commonwealth line to get onto the CSX or on the Norfolk Southern line, they have to slow down. And when they slow down, that causes additional backups, additional delays. All of that plays together. And it's a very dynamic kind of thing. And along that, as I talk about increase in cargo, with larger ships, the rail yards, or the port rather, is investing in additional rail yards. We're seeing investment in the marshalling yard north of Nansman Parkway. The ports are serving more destinations in the Midwest. And also the ports are looking to increase the percentage of freight by rail. Currently it's about 34%. Their stated goal is to get to about 40% of all of their freight. And I know I'm talking a little bit about some of the issues that this poses for us, but one thing I really have to kind of stress is it's not necessarily all bad news. More freight on trains means less trucks on our roads. It's a give and a take. And where we're located, wedged between the north end of the Dismal Swamp and the south end of the Nansman River, freight and trains and trucks, they're going to be part of our dynamic which way we go. So having a good balance between rail and truck, that's probably in our best interest. I told you I'd try and touch on a couple of projects that we've completed recently, or fairly recently anyways. We've done a couple of traffic studies to identify ways to make some improvements. Along Portsmouth Boulevard, we've looked at the East Washington crossing and the suburban crossing. That was a CIP project that was put forward, trying to identify how we could perhaps make some improvements to those intersections, specifically as it relates to moving traffic off of the 6th lane, trying to keep Portsmouth Boulevard moving effectively, especially when there's a rail crossing. One of the other projects that we've been working on is advanced signage for Main Street closures. So when the gates come down on Main Street, we're looking to see if we can find a way to put signage on the other side of Constance or on Constance itself, warning commuters that, hey, there's a closure on Main Street. Perhaps you could find an alternate route, perhaps using Broad or Pinner, that type of a message board system. And we've been working with our partners. We have some consultants that work with us on rail improvements. A couple of crossing improvements. We've been working with Norfolk Southern on some of the routes that they've recently made inactive, trying to get some rail crossing improvements. Once they go inactive, they're very reluctant to want to remove the rail, but we found that they will work with us and allow us to put asphalt over the rail or up to the top of the rail. If you get the right guy, again, this is all about developing relationships, developing partnerships. So we're working on that. The Norfolk Southern crossing between Factory and County streets, we have had some success at getting that one repaired. You'll see on the next slide, though, we still haven't had much success on the CSX, despite the fact that we call them quite regularly. East Washington Street and Suburban Drive, both of those near Portsmouth Boulevard, we have been successful at getting those improvements made. Those are now hard surfaces, and also we were able to take some of that dip out there on Suburban. I think that's a far better improvement for the folks that live in that area. So glad to see your thumbs up there, Vice Mayor. We do have some other projects that are upcoming. 2020 wasn't a great year for us on rail. We've had a very hard time getting our partners to come out and meet with us because of the pandemic. We are looking forward to having a couple of other projects move, and we're working in some areas where we may not need their assistance as much. One of the things, and we're really pretty excited about this, is an intelligent transportation system that we're working with purchasing on at this point. What we're trying to do is to purchase a package that will allow us to tie to our signal system. So when the train approaches the gates come down, it sends a signal to our traffic signal. And that tells our traffic signal, it's called a preemption signal, and it tells our traffic signal to change what it's doing. We're going to try and capture that signal and be able to put it out so that it will go out to an app that will ultimately also link to Waze, so that individuals, not while they're driving, we hope, but before they're getting ready to drive, we'll be able to check and say, hey, I'm seeing that there's a gate closure here, there's a gate closure here. I probably want to alter what it is that I'm doing. We think that this has a real potential for being a game changer for folks that are tied to that type of technology. For folks that are not, it's still going to be another tool, but we'll try and work with them. One of the other items that we have directed our traffic engineering department to do is to look at issues at Capitol Street and Railroad Avenue. There were two vehicle incidents that I identified earlier that happened at that location. It is a two-arm crossing, and by all accounts, it meets all safety standards, but yet we've had two incidents there. So we've asked staff to go out and look and see what things can be done to make it safer. It would be difficult because of the narrowness of that corridor to try and put in alternate safety measures like bollards or something like that, but perhaps there is something that we can do to consider. Crossing improvements, I mentioned the rural improvements on the inactive lines. We're going to continue to pursue that and see what we can continue to do. And then, as I mentioned, we're really trying to get Norfolk Southern and CSX to help us with those crossings on Factory and County streets. And then lastly, I wanted to talk to you about an item that was in your CIP earlier. You may not have noticed. Main Street and Prentice, there's a highway safety improvement program project that will, if you're familiar with that intersection right there at the train station, you have a stop bar and the gates that come down, and then the railroad track, but then there's a crosswalk that's on the other side. And oftentimes, if you're traveling north on Main Street, many people will drive past the railroad track and stop at the crosswalk, which is actually in the middle of the intersection, and you're technically in the railroad. You're not supposed to stop there because you would be blocking the railroad. We do have a project that we're partnering with CSX there and with the the Federal Rail Administration to try and improve that. We'll move some equipment around and see if we can't make that a safer project. We also have two CIP projects that will focus on rail safety and rail congestion issues. The Pitch Kettle Road realignment at this location on Constance and Prentice, we do see backups that extend past Pitch Kettle Road causing congestion up on Constance. One of the elements of this project was to add a slip lane so that traffic could come past all of that stop traffic and be able to turn onto Pitch Kettle without being affected by the rail crossing. We think that that'll be a definite improvement for the folks that live on that corridor. And then the next item on tonight's agenda is a motion to schedule a public hearing for Wilroy Road and Nansman Parkway. Of course, the main objective in this project is to alleviate the issues at the intersection at Wilroy and Nansman, the congestion issues that we see, and the safety issues as well. And with that, if you have any questions on rail issues, I'd be happy to answer.
For your presentation. It's always enlightening on these crossings. On the private crossings, who maintains the track if it's a private crossing?
The rail the rail company always maintains the track.
It's a tongue-twisting night for all of us, believe me.
The mask and the dry mouth is really
Yeah,
what
in
what
some
does
of
it.
these that have been vacated, isn't there any way to get the track up and pave over it and be done away with it versus it just sitting there having weeds growing up in it and just a bumpy crossing? I mean, what good is it if it's vacated, never going to ever be used again?
Well, there's different classifications that the railroad uses. So if you look at the Norfolk Southern line that goes south of 58, you'll notice that all the gate heads are turned sideways. They consider that to be an inactive rail line. So they would not remove the rail because the potential exists that they might go back there again. But then there are occasions when they actually declare a line to be, they abandon a line, and that requires a large environmental study for them. They have to go through an environmental review, and then they have to just figure out what they're going to do with the disposition of the property. So that in that case, yes, they'll pull the lines. But until they've gotten to that place where they're ready to abandon the line, they will not.
I know there's one over there by the Target that goes almost, I'm missing the roadway that goes through there.
Manning Bridge.
Yeah, Manning Bridge. That thing looks like it hadn't been used in as long as I've been alive.
It was used a number of years ago, but it is currently in that status of inactive. So again, if you look at you'll notice they still have the heads are out there, the rail heads are out there, the flashing light heads, but they turn them sideways. And the reason they do that is that allows our school buses to not have to stop. It's a huge deal for the school system. Because the heads are turned sideways, it indicates that it's a non-inactive rail line, and the school buses can proceed across without having to stop.
I know they did some improvement on Shoulders Hill right there where the track is at, but man, did they obliterated it. It's when you hit that thing, it's still not good. I mean, we need to find a way to get them to come back and do something better than what they did there, because it's awful. I mean, I travel it, you travel it every day. You have to see or hear what it does to a vehicle when you cross over, because this is the most uneven, unprofessional job that they ever did on that particular crossing right there. So if you could, maybe we can try again to reach out and see if they can do something to fix that there, because I'm getting tired of putting a front end alignment on my vehicle, to be honest with you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. On, you said Capitol and Railroad, there were a couple incidents there.
Yes, sir.
That's a pretty little rough area right there, getting across those tracks. What was the cause of those incidents that happened there? Do you remember what they were? Were they trying to go around it?
Have to go back.
Because it's a tight spot there.
I don't have that information with me.
Okay.
I apologize.
All right.
Do you know, Chief? One of them I know was a drive around.
I'm not certain on that information right now.
Okay.
We can get that information to you. We do have it documented, but for each individual case, I'm not prepared to answer.
Okay, thank you. If you can just get it to me, I'm just interested, because it's a rough section there, and it's fairly dark.
One on Capitol?
Capitol and the railroad. And it's dark, and so I can understand some problems that could be there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do know, sir, that the most recent one was a drive around, but the one prior to that, I don't know that one.
Be a drive around.
On the Wilroy and Nashville Parkway, we had a couple of speakers to come up tonight and talk about it. Tonight, what we are passing, the resolution here is just for a public hearing. That does not mean that other suggestions that hasn't been looked at or being looked at, that they can still be presented. Is that correct?
I'm not sure I understand your question, sir.
Okay, we had two speakers come up tonight talking about alternate places we could use as alternates rather than the plan that we have in place. And I'm just asking, this public hearing, this resolution tonight is just for moving forward to require property, if need be, to do the flyover. And is it too late for those presentations that they are making of other alternate routes to be looked at?
The motion tonight is to schedule a public hearing 2 weeks from tonight. At
Right.
that public hearing, we will ask you for authorization to proceed on the design that has been developed and shown to City Council, the design that was presented at public hearing, and the design that has been vetted by the city and VDOT. We are not at this point, respectfully, I understand that another concept was posed, but that is not on the agenda for 2 weeks from now. If you'd like, I will make sure that I have somebody here that will speak on our evaluation of that concept, but 2 weeks from tonight, it will be a public hearing to authorize Public Works to move forward with the design that we have previously put forward, yes.
I would hope that someone will be here to explain to the residents of that area the whole context of why it's this way, why it can't be moved, or whatever the case might be. So, and the money that's been spent, the money that has been appropriated from the state and all, and whether we will lose that money if we don't use move the project forward.
Yes, sir, I understand.
Okay? Thank you. That's all I had.
Any other questions, comments?
But Mayor, in that respect, was the other ideas talked about before? Any thoughts, were they presented so that we could study those, or someone saw those possibilities, those other offers or other types?
The concept that was proposed within the last, I'm going to guess here, I'm sure Mr. Jensen knows the answer, but I would say within the last 6 months it was proposed. That concept was not evaluated at the point where we did the design, where the design was originally constructed. If you recall the history of the project, it was originally supposed to be a slip lane project.
Right.
And that project was adopted, and actually, if I look back at my notes, I looked at this earlier. On April 6th of 2016, my predecessor came before City Council and did the public hearing that we're talking about in 2 weeks for that project for the slip lane. At that point, it was adopted. The Department of Public Works proceeded forth to acquire right-of-way and to start the project as a slip lane. In 2017, the Commonwealth made funding available to allow for a flyover. At that point, the slip lane project was scuttled, or you pick your adjective here, but it was terminated, and the new project was developed to allow for a flyover. City staff met with the residents of the community when we found out what was going to happen, when we found out what the alignment looked like. When we go through a design process, we factor in all of the elements that are part of the project. What are the ultimate goals of the project? What are the what are the federal highway regulations, what are the standards, what are good practices, all of those types of things. I can't tell you what, because it predates my time, I can't tell you what were original design concepts because I don't have that information. What I can tell you is that we evaluated many different options. And as council will recall, I have brought, each time we've come to you and I've said, we thought we were going to do this, but we had to adjust it because we found a new issue. There's a historic resource, there's a utility, there's an easement, there is whatever. So there are a number of modifications that happen throughout. I cannot tell you with any certainty what all of the original items were that were evaluated. What I can tell you is that when Mr. Jensen submitted his alternative concept, we were well into design. Our staff reviewed it. We asked our consultant to review it. We both concluded that it was not a practical solution. And I will have a member of our design team will be here to discuss that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Else have any questions? None? Thank you. Thanks, LJ. Okay, we'll move to motions. We have a motion to schedule a public hearing for February 3rd, 2021 to receive public comment on an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of real property in fee simple and/or permanent and temporary easements, either by agreement or condemnation for the Nansemond Parkway, Wilroy Road overpass over Commonwealth Railway project. A motion is order.
Move to approve.
A motion for approval, second from Councilman Goldberg. Any discussion of the motion? If not, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Duman?
Yes.
The motion's approved by a vote of 7-0.
Our next motion is a motion to schedule a public hearing to be held on February 17th, 2021 to receive public comment on the proposed fiscal year 2022 to 2031 capital improvements program and plan. A motion is in order.
So move.
Councilman Johnson, a motion, a second.
Second.
Councilman Williams.
You got it.
Any discussion of the motion? All right, hearing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Duman?
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Our last motion is a motion to schedule a joint city council and school board work session for Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021 at 4 p.m. unless canceled. Councilman Williams?
So move.
A second.
Second.
Vice Mayor Bennett. Any discussion of the motion? If not, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Duman?
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, we'll next have non-agenda speakers. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers tonight?
Yes, Mayor Duman, there are individuals registered to speak under this portion of the agenda this evening. Each person participating under the item of business entitled non-agenda speakers shall limit their remarks to the services, policies, and affairs of city government and shall be permitted 5 minutes for the purpose of presenting his or her matter. Speakers appearing before City Council will not be permitted to participate in the following activities: to campaign for public office, engage in personal attacks, promote private business ventures, or use profanity. Speakers who violate these rules will be declared out of order by the presiding officer and will immediately yield the floor and be seated. Our first speaker this evening is Miller Carey, 1002 MacArthur Drive, representing self regarding reflections on 2020 and looking forward to 2021.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, Councilman. I'm Miller Carey. I live at 1002 MacArthur Drive, from which I locked myself out today while my wife was still at work, so I dressed you tonight from a flannel shirt instead of attire I wore befitting the decorum of this room. Please forgive me. First, I'd like to thank all of you for what you do. and also to congratulate election winners from the fall, Councilman Fawcett, Councilman Ward, especially newly elected Councilman Williams and Mayor Mike Duman. Last year, when I came here, council looked a lot different, somewhat different. I was here with about 1,000 fellow citizens. We were here in defense of an inalienable right to self-defense. That's a civil right, a natural right, endowed by our Creator, which means, of course, God-given, and as such must be respected at every level of government. That night, two members spoke early on to support our concerns in an official manner. I'd like to thank Councilman Fawcett, who was re-elected unopposed in his election this year, and also then Councilman, now Mayor Mike Duman. One here shrugged her shoulders and suggested we take our concerns elsewhere, to Richmond specifically. She's no longer with us in her former capacity. I notice sometimes that in moments of frustration, this member up there would wave her hands and say, you know, I'm not even sure I want this job. The pay's lousy. And while I'm not one to judge on the pay of the job, be it lousy or not, the $60,000 spent last year to get that job back suggests that maybe she would have liked to have had it again. I think it's worth considering at the beginning of a new year with a new council that no matter who donates to you, no matter who you're aligned with, no matter how much you spend to get reelected, if your constituents do not believe that you're responsive to their concerns, future elections may prove difficult, costly, even impossible. So in closing, again, thank you all for your attentiveness to citizen concerns, for making them your own, and Godspeed representing Suffolk citizens in 2021. I think I have about a minute left, and I'd like to just touch on one more item. Earlier we were talking about the tragedies at some of our rail crossings. And I hope that some in this room will consider addressing a local delegate who just a few months ago co-sponsored some legislation that some might deem anti-police, but it was very restrictive for what police can pull over a car for. Police following a car that can smell from many yards away the stench of marijuana going down the road cannot pull over that car for that reason anymore. As the bill was written and passed, co-sponsored by our local delegate, police could not even pull over that car at 2 in the morning with the stench of marijuana if the headlights and the taillights were out. Luckily, someone caught that. But with taillights out, still, police cannot pull over that car, and for a number of other reasons. And we all know from driver's education that driver attentiveness is the most important thing protecting us from tragedies like we heard about tonight at these rail crossings. I hope somebody, some of you up here from your positions of influence will have a discussion with our delegate about how that impacts Suffolk citizens. Some people perhaps gave their life over that. There was another way that government could have stopped it. While we're addressing that tonight, different ways we can prevent these tragedies. That would be a good one, to allow our police to do their job. Thank you very much for what you do and for your time.
The next speaker is Angela Harris, 2101 Jefferson Avenue, representing Southeast Care Coalition regarding sewage break and watershed.
Good afternoon. My name is Angela Harris, and I want to first send you greetings from Newport News, Virginia. We got a call from our cousins in Hobson, Mary Hill and her mother Her mother is 100. I've also spoken with the Chuckatuck Historical Society. My name is Angela, and I'm the chair of the Southeast Care Coalition. I'm also the founder of the EJ Collaborative, and we also have a Governor Advisory Council. It's alarming when we have to hear from citizens over here how their fisheries has been poisoned or contaminated by the sewage break in Newport News. Very alarming. Very alarming to put boots on the ground, not have no one speak from a position of strength for the elders that live in these barrows over here. I was able to put a call in to the top of the state, to the Sierra Club. We've been talking to the everyone that's involved with the watershed. We've been talking from DC all the way down to North Carolina because we all are a part of the Chesapeake watershed. I'm reaching out to the governor. We have an executive order in place. This is not my first time over here with my cousins. I've been over here for 27 years this year with Abdullah Bilal Hakima Muhammad. In 2002, he felt the need that we do a write-in candidacy to protect our children, our culture, our heritage. For the Southeast Care Coalition, the environmental justice is not just the natural, it's the culture, the economical, the political. Come on, y'all. This is 2021. There's a lot of things in place. We have partnership with our academia groups, from ODU to William and Mary to VIMS to CNU to University of Virginia. Come on, y'all. This watershed should not be going through this, and there is no blame game. On our side of the water, we did a community assessment. We're going to make sure that the Virginia Department do what they need to do to put the signs out for our children. It's alarming when we have 3 different communications going, whether it's from the newspaper or 2 news medias. It's alarming when we are not on the same page. I'm 48 years old. We should not be going through this in Virginia at this day and time. There is no color coding, there is no blame game. It is what it is. We should be mindful. We should be doing a community engagement project empowering the next generation of children to take y'all jobs. Period. There is no color to that. We should be making sure we're doing Civic 101, teaching the next generation who's responsible, from city council to delegate to your congressman to your senate. Who dropped the ball? We need to be mindful that we work for the people. We are the people. We should have no problems. I shouldn't have a problem with trying to reach the Indian chief. Thank Chief Rosa Holmes Turner for stepping in this matter. We were also able to reach the Winoke Association, Anita Harrell, our cousins out of Child City. No blame game. Just do what we can do for each other. Protect our heritage, our history, our culture. We should not forget that this is the Virginia colony. This is the beginning of where everything started. We should not forget about historical Fairfax County and all our records. We should not forget that we were not all slaves. We should never forget that stuff. We should be mindful, and we should love each and every last one of our children. We should not have a situation in Virginia where, according to your zip code, your livelihood determines who you are. Shouldn't be a case. You should love my children like I love yours. I should not have to catch an Uber over here to remind all of us that's over 18 our role and responsibility to the next generation. It's a shame and a pity. Again, in 2002, Abdul Bilal Hakima Muhammad, he ran as a write-in candidacy. He tried to make sure and ensure that they taught us what to do. I rolled with Dr. Mary C. Christian, and I miss her. I miss her so much. Didn't know who to call, because this is a terrible matter.
That concludes the time allocated for the speaker, Mayor.
Sorry, ma'am, your time has expired. Thank you.
Our final speaker is Kelly Hengler, 9345 Eclipse Drive, representing the Crittenton Eclipse Hobson Civic League regarding comprehensive planning.
Good evening, and what a day we've had today in a transition, and also our first council and transition in Washington, D.C. as well. As we step forward in strength together, as Angela has said, I'm coming now to dovetail into the conversation about our comprehensive plan. In 2019, we were referring constantly in our council about the comprehensive plan. The first comprehensive plan was actually done in 1988, the next one in 2006 to 2008, and then finally the last one in 2015. That's the one that's referred to as 2035. You see the thickness of this. This is the petition that was passed around inside of our community. There's not a lot that was known about Crittenton Eclipse before, except for our history, which can be found in every major newspaper dating back as far as the archives can show. In our community, we also consider ourselves Crittenton Eclipse and Hobson. I'd like to be able to say for Mr. Roosevelt Jones and the Chuckatuck Civic League, who cannot be here tonight because of a funeral, we send our heart and all of our soul to you tonight to be of a comfort to you, because we're coming together as a Chuckatuck Borough. And in this Chuckatuck Borough is the Rural Residential Conservation District of Suffolk. Okay? You need to look that up. We are the Rural Residential Conservation District of Suffolk. We are bound on both sides by water, if not three sides by water. So Angela is coming together. We have met with Queen Shabazz and the Virginia Environmental Justice League. We are meeting across the state with VDH, with Shellfish, and policymakers. We're also meeting with VMRC, okay, reaching out to HRSD and DEQ, because those are the four people that responded to that 29 million gallon, okay, sewage spill, right? And that threat is not a moment in time. That happened again in September in Shingle Creek. No blame game, Angela will tell you, because we don't have the coordinated resources in our community to be responsive to know how many of those people eat fish and take from those rivers. So we're calling out all of the old initiatives, all of the village initiatives that in 1974, the voters of the city of Suffolk that were Nansemond County at that time, Nansemond County, 1646, the Virginia colony before that, all the way from Canada all the way down, all right? All of these people, these ancestors living here forever and ever, amen, and welcoming people into the area are still here. And they need and deserve the services that were promised when people came forward for that vote of the merger, okay, of what was Nansemond County to Nansemond City with the city of Suffolk. Those who are in the room, the esteemed members, thank you so much, may have an echo of a memory of why those people stepped forward saying, yes, let's do this merger. Let's have services to our communities. Who was living here in 1974? Whaleyville, Holland, Driver, downtown, Crittenton Eclipse and Hobson, and our Chuckatuck. So we're going to come together as a people, heritage, all of it. And we're joining up with civic leaders across our borough to start with, and reaching across the water to our other sisters and brothers who are Newport News and Hampton, because they're closer to us than downtown Suffolk. Okay? That's the old ways. We used to communicate by waterway until that bridge system came through. We need a review, and we passed this emergency resolution by our board to have the city of Suffolk as part of this comprehensive plan that we were promised we would be engaged in, minus COVID, okay, by April, by our petition response from the city of Suffolk, to have a comprehensive review, because in all of those plans that I told you about, our community and none of the other communities was aware. Not Huntersville, sir, you have one as well. Every borough has one of these initiatives. Hall, we're not leaving anybody out. And we were told that the UDO and the municipal code didn't match up, that, oh, well, there was no funding. No, 2021, we work. And we work together, and we work hard, and we work across all 430 square miles of this city. Watch us win. We need the city to come down, review every one of those initiatives with each one of those old communities and find out what services have not been delivered to them yet from 1974. We also need to know the impacts because we now have region, we have local, region, state, and federal. 2 of those, the 58, which I mentioned before, and I'll wrap up, and the 17 are now considered corridors of state significance, not just for the state, but the region. People in their villages are saying, what are you talking about? I have flooding. You see what I'm saying? What are the needs of the communities that existed, that voted in, so that we could all be here today?
That concludes the time
Thank you
allocated
so
for the
much,
speakers, ma'am.
and be blessed. God bless America, and I do thank you all. I'm sorry I'm out of breath today. Appreciate you.
That concludes all the speakers, Mayor.
All right, if that concludes our speakers, we'll move to new business. Madam Clerk, are there any additions to tonight's agenda?
The following individuals have been nominated for consideration for appointment to their respective boards and commissions. The Hampton Roads Military and Federal Facilities Alliance, Mayor Duman. The Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission, Mayor Duman. And the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization, Mayor Duman. Also, the Southside Network Authority Interim Information Technology Director, Regina Chandler.
Move for approval.
Second, Fawcett. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Is there any other new business anyone would like to bring forward that would require a vote? Councilman Fawcett.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to direct the city manager to provide Chromebook laptops with the necessary input outputs and all the components that are necessary in that computer to operate to each one of the council members.
Second from Councilman Goldberg. Any further discussion of the motion?
I want to ask a question. Go ahead.
I'll have a little discussion just briefly, because we are way overdue to be doing this, guys, and I'm as old and senile as everybody else and will probably struggle with it. But I think for the expense to the city and for the clarity of what we get, I think it's going to work in our favor. This is the first I've heard of it, by the way. You didn't tell me. But I think that it's time that we move in this direction, unless someone is opposed. And then if any one of us is opposed, I say we probably shouldn't do it. Thank you.
Well, you know, I'm not embarrassed to say, but I don't be using the computer myself, so you're going to put forward, I'm going to give me some lessons, pay for my lessons or something.
I think we need to direct
because,
that question
you
to...
putting something that the first time I discussed this, what are you saying?
I hadn't heard either, but I think we're going to continue to receive the information we want to. You can choose.
Okay, that's better.
Yes, I think that even though we've directed the city manager to do this, if you wish not to obtain it yourself personally, don't obtain it. But if you wish to do it, I'm giving you the option here through the motion to have the city manager provide Chromebooks to each one of us that can perform our duties.
I don't think you said it like that.
You
it wasn't discussed like you said, everybody wanted to do it. That's something I think you should have said another different way, would it be okay? But you just said, you telling the city manager to get something, but you don't know how come somebody else feel about it.
We have to direct him to do it. If you don't want it, you're not compelled to take it.
First time hearing, I think it's a good idea. I mean, first I'm hearing, it seems to have I'm not the best at it myself.
I'm not saying that neither, but I think you should have said it another way, that's saying, if I don't feel comfortable with something, you just come out and say something. Yeah, we want to have go wear no shoes in the council. You ain't, what you talking about? So you just came out and said it.
Motion.
Councilman Ward, if I can, please, we can work together, because I equally do not do, you can ask my children, I'm horrible. I can't do any of it, but I'm willing to learn. I think we're kind of the same age, we can pick it up, but I think this will save the city money. I think it will put more information at our fingertips.
Councilman Johnson, I understand exactly what you're saying, but you didn't say that at first and nobody else said it, so I got to address this. Now you're saying you not. I mean, that might have been offensive to him to say what he said.
Sure.
I don't think, that's just, we're going to get on the computer.
I think at this time, If you want to speak, please raise your hand, be recognized, and I'll allow you to speak. We've got a motion from Councilman Fawcett and Councilman Ward. I understand exactly what you're coming from, but if I'm not mistaken, the motion would be to provide those councilmen who would like to have one a Chromebook. However, everyone who doesn't want one will continue to do business as usual. Then it would still be provided in print, and it'd probably be me also. Am I correct? Could you?
I could have got a little more elaborate, but I was trying to condense
And
here.
in all honesty, this was
Well,
brought up at the last minute. I know
I
anybody.
got my light on.
Go ahead, Councilman Ward.
Well, I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. That's a difference how you address something. Now you said, I should have been, you're right. We are council. I think we should not be hit by the side, well, we're going to do this now. We was back there an hour and a half. There's something that we should, if we want to do something, we're supposed to do it together. At least we want to know. But you just come up and say, we're going to have computers or calculators. It's the way you said things, man.
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad it's brought up again. If some people remember some years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I brought up this same subject about these books and what it costs to make them up, time and paper and all, and it was turned down. I don't know how many of you all sitting around here remember that, but I brought it up. So I don't have a problem with it. I thought we should have did it years ago, because look at the time that it takes to put these together, and the paper that we use, how many trees. So I agree. Anybody that wants to use them, I think it should be available to them to use. So I love the idea myself.
Councilman Fawcett.
I can amend the motion to read, to direct the city manager to provide Chromebooks with all the necessary components to those council members that wish to use the computer. And if not, you'll continue to get your book and we can move on. And it can have the capabilities of print and all the things it needs to have. That's my motion. Donnie, you seconded my motion earlier. You continued to second it.
I mean, I think it's another opportunity to sort of have more material maybe to us and save some time and whatever, and if you don't want it, fine, but I think it would be a benefit.
Tool bag.
Can I
Motion
just,
second.
yeah, can I ask another question, though? Will it have the capability of me not worrying the life out of your staff and sending them like emails on it? I mean, is it type, I'm sorry I'm being stupid, but I'm just saying, it seems to me it would make where's he's not here.
I was looking for Regina real quick.
Trying to make y'all's life a little bit easier, because there is a heck of a lot of paperwork that we deal with. So would it have that capability, Al?
Well, I can get with,
Mr.
everyone on the staff and make sure that, because we probably need I forget what it's called, so you can work outside through our software. But we can set it up where we can email you data and the information.
Yeah, as long as.
I mean, I've been able to work from my own remote place with my laptop, so we can set it up that way.
Mayor, maybe what we ought to do is ask to have it looked into, to get the Chromebooks, to find out what all the information is, and then we can then decide on that.
I don't want to prolong that, Donnie. I mean, a Chromebook's a Chromebook. I mean, I'm not looking for tablets or Surfaces. I'm looking for a Chromebook that you can get and do anything you want to do on that, to anything that you have city business-wise. And there's no sense in belaying it. If you're going to belay it, then, what's the point here? I'm trying to get this thing across the finish line that we tried to do 3 years ago and never got successful. We're in the 2020 here, in a different century. You want it, you can be offered it. If you don't want it, you don't have to touch it. If I want to move forward, I would like to have that capability.
Yeah, I was getting information there. I can get with Regina, but the key is I'll poll council who would like one, who wouldn't want, and we'll be able to set you up with a Chrome laptop with a mouse and those type fixtures
Call for the question.
for those who desire it.
Just want to clarify, I think that second was it from Councilmember Goldberg on the amended motion? Is that correct?
Councilman Fawcett made the motion, Goldberg seconded the motion.
That was my understanding
That's good.
on the amended motion. Because there was an amended motion that
Yes.
Councilmember
Amended
Fawcett.
motion.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
No.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Duman? The motion is approved by a vote of 6-1 with Councilmember Ward voting in opposition.
Is there any other new business that needs to be brought forward? Hearing none, we'll ask Media and Community Relations Assistant Director Tim Kelly to come forward.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, City Manager. Well, during these COVID times, the city continues to maintain a COVID page on the city's website with up-to-date information for our local community. One recent addition has been a link to an online quiz from the Virginia Department of Health, which can help residents identify which vaccine phase that they are in on an individual basis, as well as let users enter contact information so that the Virginia Department of Health can advise them when their phase is eligible to receive the vaccine. Other features of the city's page include information such as this information here, again noting what to expect after getting a COVID-19 vaccine, as well as status updates on city services. The Department of Public Works advises that a major transportation project on Lake Cahoon Road will be beginning in late January. The city's contractor will replace the deck and superstructure on the bridge of the CSX Railroad at the crossing located just north of Holland Road. The $2.25 million project will replace the entirety of the deck and superstructure to the 400-foot-long bridge. Preliminary activities will begin in late January. The road will be closed in late February and is anticipated to be reopened in late December of 2021. Signage will be posted in advance of the closure date, and additional information can also be found on the city's website. Suffolk Police would like to remind residents that as of January 1st of this year, it's illegal to hold a handheld personal communications device while driving a moving motor vehicle on the highways in Virginia. Violating the law is punishable for a first offense by a fine of $125 and for a second or subsequent offense by a fine of $250. This law and its enforcement ties to the need to reduce distracted driving. Statistics show that 80% of all crashes and 65% of all near crashes involve driver inattention within 3 seconds of that crash. An example is texting while driving, which increases your crash risk by 2,300% because it involves all three kinds of distraction: manual, visual, and cognitive. It is by far the most egregious form of distracted driving. Another reminder from Suffolk Police is to simply lock it, don't lose it. The numbers are definitely proof that not leaving your car unlocked or running while unattended would go a long way to reducing crime in our city. 52% of motor vehicle thefts in Suffolk involve situations where vehicles were left unlocked with the keys inside. 32% of the vehicles were left unlocked and running. If you eliminate the opportunity for a crime, you can possibly eliminate the ability for that crime to occur. Again, simply lock it, don't lose it. And again, we leave you with the ways we reach out to our residents and business owners. Again, the number in the upper left-hand portion of your screen, 514-4000, will get you to the city's main switchboard. We can connect you with city services, get you affiliated with the proper department, or perhaps answer some questions when you call. We try to do the best we can to make sure that happens. And again, all the different ways we also communicate, Facebook, we use social media quite a bit, city's website, we also have the mass notification system, so a lot of tools we do to push information out to our residents. So just want to remind everybody of those services that are there. With that, I'll say good evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Sir.
We'll now move on to announcements and comments from council, and we're going to start with Councilman Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I would like to thank the citizens in the Wellerville Borough for electing me as your city councilman. I'm just going to repeat some of what I said on January the 4th. As your newly elected councilman, for the Wellville Borough. It is my goal to work for the core city neighborhoods as well as the rural neighborhoods, because we are one. We are one as a whole. During the campaign, I heard the citizens in the Wellville Borough loud and clear saying, we exist, we want to be heard, and don't forget about us. As your councilman, I will listen to your concerns, I will address them with the city manager, and I will work hard on your behalf, trying to get things done. And I will be your voice. I just wanted to repeat that because I will be your voice. Mr. City Manager, I'm looking forward to working with you and my fellow council members, Mayor Duman. I would also like to say that I met with Mr. Williams over on South 11th Street. He has a drainage issue, water standing in his backyard. There seemed to be a blockage there, some type of piping or something that the city is supposed to maintain. If you could get someone to look at that for Mr. Williams, it would be greatly appreciated. I also met with Mr. Jackson, the owner of 206 Columbus Avenue, having the same problems whenever there's 4 to 5 inches of rain, his property tends to flood out. So if that's something you could get staff to look at, I would greatly appreciate it. With that said, I'm looking forward again working with council. This is a new day for our country. This is a new day for our city. God bless this city and God bless America. With that, good night.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I'll be brief. I just sort of want to back up on Councilman Williams about the country, and we have a new president, new vice president. I wish him well, wish the country well. We're on starting off a new year. We've had a good meeting, and so just want us to continue to work together and try to make the city better. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Ward. Yes, sir, I'd like to congratulate Mayor Duman. You put on you led the council pretty good tonight. I know you could do it. I'd also like to welcome Mr. Williams for your input. Thank you. It's a pleasure for working along with you. With that, I'll say God bless.
I'm not going to be that brief. I want to welcome Mr. Williams, Councilman Williams. Mayor Duman, you didn't mess up tonight. That's good.
Yeah, not too bad.
Good night. I think it's appropriate to begin a new year, particularly this new year, by paying tribute to somebody that I should have paid tribute to back in January, but we didn't have the time. Ruby Walden passed away at the age of 99 on December 22nd. She was like the matriarch of our community. In the Wednesday, December 30th edition of the Suffolk News Herald, they published an aptly named tribute to Ruby entitled, What She Could, She Did. Ruby's grandparents deeded 1 acre of land for $30 to be used in the Holy Neck Borough for the Nansemond County Training School for African-American youth to be afforded a comparable and adequate education in a time when that task was arduous. Ruby never relented in promoting her family's legacy of protecting and encouraging education throughout the community, believing that with an education, you can do just about anything, and that's a quote. The article closes with Ruby's words, "What I can do, I ought to do." We all need to take note today. This simple slogan she lived by isn't just pragmatic, it's hopeful. She knew that even facing deplorable discrimination, a community can thrive against all odds when its members lean and support on one another. So we're starting a new day in the nation. We're starting a new year on the council. I think we need to remember our citizens and the people that have made us what we are. And for that, I say thank you to Ruby Walden because she was truly a Suffolk hero. Thank you.
Councilman Fawcett.
Thanks, Mayor. I want to thank all the speakers that came out tonight and taking the time to come out. Those of you that came up and spoke. Just so you know it, over at the Bridgeport facility, there's a new place called the Knott's Coffee Shop. If you get a chance to go over and kind of visit it, it's fantastic. It's a neat place. It's got a lot of goodies in there, from all the coffee and lattes and salads and whatever else you might would like. Give them a try. Went over today and met with them and talked to them and got my lunch, and they were really great people. Just another added thing coming, that's here to Suffolk that people can venture out and take advantage of. Soon to be, Brian and Teresa Mullins will have a Italian restaurant in the structure just adjacent to where the Mexican restaurant's at, which will probably be open sometime after, probably the day or so after Easter. That is going to be a fantastic place with a bakery, which is going to be really cool. So if you get a chance, just kind of when you're on that end of town, browse around and pay a visit to those folks. Mr. Newman, good job tonight. Thank you, sir, for doing what you do. And Mr. Williams, welcome to the flock here, and glad to see you, and look forward to working with you. Just keep in mind, we got a lot of information tonight on COVID. COVID is still going pretty good out there. If and when you get an opportunity, if you're offered the shot or could get the shot, and we hope that that'll ramp up, that you'll take advantage of maybe looking at it and see if it's something you want to do. It may not be for everybody, but we probably are not going to lick this thing unless we can get enough people on the shot. So think about it. I'm going down that trail myself to take it. So I've known many of people in the last few weeks that have just gone within 2-3 weeks of being here. And maybe if they'd have had the shot, it might have made a difference. We don't know. But anyway, consider doing that. But maintain your mask and doing all the other protections you can do when possibly you can do it. I want to thank each and every council member tonight for a great job, and I look forward to see you in the next meeting. Thank you.
Mayor, just a couple of things. I would really like to thank Chief Spicer for his presentation tonight on the coronavirus and giving us an update on the vaccine. But I'm going to repeat again, I'm hoping and looking forward to our health department reopening very, very soon, so that will be available to our citizens here. I think that the more that we can get out into the communities to help the people that want to take it and make it available to them, the better off. I saw those numbers, how they had climbed in Suffolk. That really concerns me that, I don't know what's happening, but it concerns me how our numbers will really continue to climb. So I hope that we will try to make it available to everyone that wants it to be able to take it. So again, I do appreciate his presentation. So maybe the next, Mr. Manager, maybe the next meeting we should have the Health Director, Ms. Jackson, to come, so that she's the one that oversees that. Maybe we can get more detail from her, exactly what's taking place. So I'd appreciate if you try to get her to come to the next council meeting. Also, East Suffolk Garden Civic League asked me about trying to get them a small trash can at Truman Road and White Marsh Road. I think they have a lot of trash being thrown out from the shopping center there in that area. And my final comment I'd like to say to my fellow council members and to the mayor and all, I thank you for selecting me again to serve as vice mayor. I'm looking forward to continue to work as hard as I have with the other mayors, Mr. Mayor, to work you and support you and the council. And I'm looking forward to working together for the good of the people. So with that, again, I thank all of you for your support. I look forward to working with you, and so we can move the city forward. Thank you.
But I too want to start out by welcoming Councilman Williams. Welcome to the club. I think the clerk pointed out, we had, how many more meetings? 119, about 119 thereabouts, so you got that to look forward to. But seriously, I'm looking forward to you working with us. I think we've got a great council. This evening, we looked at an overview of the capital improvement plan. I want to thank all the staff and the planning commission for the work they've done putting that together. And I'm looking forward to the joint meeting with the school board on February 3rd, specifically regarding the facility study, which will present to us the needs of the school system to accommodate student generation rate in the future and allow us to establish a strategic plan to do that. We also had a presentation tonight as the city, as the vice mayor and others alluded to in regards to COVID-19, the coronavirus, and specifically the distribution of the vaccine. As a city, we're going to work diligently with the resources that we have available to get the vaccines to those who want it as quickly as possible, and try to be more diligent in getting that information out to our citizens. This is not strictly a city of Suffolk issue. If you look at the newspaper every day, I mean, it's city, state, and federal all the way down the line. I think last Sunday's paper, it mentioned that the state had received almost 1 million vaccines, 900 and some, and actually only administered less than 300. So the system hasn't caught up with the distribution yet. However, we are going to make a concerted effort to do what we can with the resources that we have. In that regards, also, if I could ask the city manager a question, is the utility bill relief program still in effect? And if so, when will that expire?
The money's been extended till the end of the year.
Okay.
I think they've had, I forget what Paul told me, 1,000 and some applicants. We've utilized 400,000 of the 1.3 to date.
Okay, thank you very much. So we've spent 400,000 to 1.3 million that we have available at the utility bill relief program. So those of you that, I believe they can go online and fill out the application, also go to social services maybe for assistance.
Social services, or they can call the utility department at 514-7001.
Okay, thank you very much. And those of you who know about it, please spread the word. That's an issue with a lot of the programs we have. It's just a lot of our citizens do not know that they're available. So the money's there, let's take advantage of it. We don't want to send any back at the end of the year, right? We're going to spend it all. I also want to thank, we had 21 applications for my vacancy in Chuckatuck. I want to thank those 21 civic-minded citizens that submitted applications to fill my vacancy on the city council representing the Chuckatuck Borough. I don't think I've seen, and I've looked at a lot of applications from a lot of people, job applications, I don't think I've seen a more qualified, capable, and suitable group of individuals. I mean, I was expecting maybe 4 or 5. But, I mean, we got 21 applications, and I want to thank them for their willingness to serve, and we will continue to work on that. Just to put it out for the process, we'll be reviewing again the first meeting in February, and of course, by code, we have to have a decision by the end of February. I also, Councilman Johnson kind of beat me to the punch in regards to the passing of Ms. Ruby Walden. It's just the way the timing was. We haven't had a meeting to really recognize who she was, and you mentioned some of her attributes and what she was able to accomplish. But for those that didn't know her, I mean, she was a community and civil rights activist who was born and raised in Nansemond County. She served on over 320 boards, commissions, organizations, and task forces. During her life, she had many accomplishments and received numerous awards. Most notably, she was known and recognized as a champion of education for the black community, going back to the lawsuit for the equalization of schools in Nansemond County in 1951. And of course, she passed away at age 99, but we're all in a better place because of her efforts. I was reflecting before the meeting, I was kind of reflecting on what my first meeting presided as mayor would be like. I've been sitting up here for 10 years, but it's a little different. And I spent a little bit of time with the clerk, and Erica, you're right, it is a little different. You know, I'm used to talking and interjecting things, and in this role, it's more or less I wouldn't say like herding cats sometimes, but, but kind of directing traffic rather than interjecting things. And I appreciate everybody's patience, this evening. But I really wanted to reflect on, what's kind of happening in our country. There's one thing for sure, look at the time, and am I going to remember when I was elected mayor? Yeah, I probably won't forget that. It's 2020. It's coronavirus year. So now my election, when was that? I can't remember when I got elected. Well, when was the coronavirus? Okay, that's when it was. And also be able to remember the first night presiding a council, and that will be the inauguration of our 46th president. So in my later years, which would be in a week or so, I'll be able to recall those two things because I can associate them with, those two events. But regardless of what is happening around us, as a council, we must renew our resolve to work together as a leadership team and make the necessary decisions to move our city forward, ultimately improving the quality of life of all our citizens. Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, my quote of the night will be from Ms. Walden. And Councilman Johnson got part of it, but that's actually just a little excerpt of the long version. The long version of this quote is, and I quote, "I cannot do everything, but I can do some things. What I can do, I ought to do. What I ought to do, with the help of God, I will do." And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Everybody move. Pick one. Councilman Goldberg with a motion, and second from Councilman Fawcett. Any discussion of the motion? If not,
Councilmember Fawcett? Yep. Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Duman?
yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
One down.